I'm the guy with the mic.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Hello
Hey.
and welcome to Padded Self.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Well, I'm not in an ER right now, so
Much
Big
better.
plus. Hey, Carissa,
Hello.
how's
Hi.
it going?
How
Just
are
say
you?
hi.
Yeah, see, guys, this is a live show, everyone at home, and people are just going to jump in and out during padded cells. You guys should know this by now, but if you've forgotten or you're new, expect that. This is what we do today, because today is the day where we like podcasting, but we need to blow off steam and not give a shit. So that's what padded cell is.
That's me every day.
Yeah, me too, usually.
Yeah.
Except for structured show days. You know, that's why we have the non-structured show day to do it on
My
air.
husband might call because he's out of the state, so if he calls, I'm gonna run and take that. But just letting you know, it's on do not
Yeah, you're
disturb
good.
unless he calls. So if it
You're-
rings, it's him. But yeah,
It's a no hold bars today. It's what it is. Padded cells are 2-hour jaunt into absolute insanity and squirreling out and talking about whatever we want. And then at some point in time, talking a little bit about mental health, because the show we used to do was called Buddy Chat, and it was sometimes like a 5-hour show where we would really get in touch with everybody in the audience and, you know, what our lives were like and how we handled stress and stuff like that. And what we realized is after we did that for a few months, there was a lot of burnout. And we realized that part of mental health and is showing people how to deal positively with mental health issues. So then Uncle Necro over here, James, had a really good idea for padded cell, and it just kind of worked with what we were doing. So now that's what it is. We get to blow off steam, talk about the shit that pisses us off within, reason. And when people pop
amuses
into
us.
chats or exactly, or amuses us. Yeah, that's a big one right there. I'm amused often. I'm amused right now for no good reason. I have no right to be amused.
that's good.
Yeah. So
All I ask is you never make me watch Llamageddon again.
what
Watch
kills
what?
me is Llamageddon. They did Tomb of the Terrible on Friday, and I actually watched Llamageddon in preparation for that. I watched it twice
Twice.
on
How?
2 different days, just to make sure that I had some details right, because I was actually doing notes for a change, and then of course
Okay.
I had to run to help out Dell. But
I too took notes, but it all boiled down to make it stop.
yeah,
Is it done yet?
at least 12 of my notations were just what the fuck. At
Right.
least 12 of them were just what
I've
the fuck am I
never heard
watching?
of this.
Like the close up where they're all waggling their tongues.
Yeah.
It's just a shot of them going and various. Yeah.
You know, when it comes to B-film, you guys know I'm super forgiving about the really bad movies, because that's one of my favorite things too, is bad movies. But there is this line that I have to where if I can't scare someone with a haunt with what's happening, I can't do it. And I'm a guy that's terrified people with a sock puppet. So I feel like if I can't find a way to make something scary to people, then it's just not going to be. And then I kind of check out after a while, you know?
Have you seen the raccoon, the Dark Christmas?
Yeah, you and I were actually talking about that the
Yeah.
last time you were on. Yeah, we talked about that, and that was the sequel to
Yeah,
I've seen both of
I've never
those.
seen the first one, but I found it. Well, I couldn't even find that it existed because they changed the name.
Yep.
It's like Coon something. But
Okay.
but I did watch the second one. It was all right. It was a little weird.
It was a movie.
Yeah, but you know what though? I mean, the thing that bothered me the most was the lines were so bad. Like, you can have a bad movie but still say your lines properly, like a real movie. It doesn't have to be, you know,
Here's a
like,
question.
very choppy.
Yeah.
Here's a question for everybody. Is there a movie or a TV show way back when that you remember watching, maybe enjoying, maybe not? You don't know. But if you try to tell your friends about it nowadays, they think you're just making it up. Or
I have an amazing example of this. When I was young, there was a TV show called The Charmings. Everybody tells me I'm fucking nuts that this show did not exist, but it does, because it's on. You can look it up. This show was about Snow White and Prince Charming living a life in normal modern society, and her mother was the Wicked Witch that had the mirror in the attic and everything. And this show only lasted for like a season, maybe 2 at best. I think it was just 1. But everyone tells me I'm crazy, and this show doesn't exist. And I didn't really like it when I was a kid, but I didn't dislike it. It was just so odd that it came on and I would just sit there. And I remember because it came on after one of my other favorite shows for a while called Scorched, which was a live action dragon. You think like it was a puppet dragon, like it was Alice, but it was a dragon. So it came
Okay.
out from that era of TV, like late 80s, early 90s ish kind of thing. And everybody swears up and down to me that it doesn't exist. I've never met another human being that's ever actually seen or heard of it. I know it's there, man.
See, what brought this up was I was trying to tell my friends at the pub that I used to watch as a young kid. Now, mind you, I'm pushing 50. And by young kid, I mean early 80s, late 70s. Last year of the 70s.
There we go.
early
The Charmies. Yes, thank you.
There we go. Nice. Good job. But there was a show called Benji, Zach, and the Alien Prince. It starred that famous dog, Benji, who, after a fugitive alien prince kid crash lands on Earth, he meets up with Benji, and he and his robot guide or whatever is being pursued by two evil aliens. You know they're evil because they're all dressed in black, you know?
Yeah.
And also in the title card, they're the new ruler of the planet is going, go to Earth and get them. Oogie boogie boogie.
And also the music changes when they show up on screen.
Right.
I remember that.
Good. Because they swear up and down I'm just, getting old and senile.
I haven't thought about that show since my childhood because, so obviously, I was born in 82, but my whole life was spent watching things all the way back to the beginning of television that people would have, like at the library, they had their annexes and stuff where they would just have all this stuff cataloged, like microfiche, old film footage. I was obsessed with this as a child, and all the stuff my grandma grew up with, my mom grew up with. So I would just watch all these things and find out about them or rent them from the library or wherever. And I have like this whole codex of weird shit that no one knows about. But I have not heard anyone mention that show since probably the mid to late 80s.
I was a fanboy. I was like,
Benji.
Yeah, I was like 8 when that came out, I think, if I remember correctly.
I think the Benji that screwed me up mentally was the one with Benji in the wild.
Yeah.
And
oh, yeah.
I actually saw that in the theater.
The kid. He tries to save the kid. He follows it, and then he's staring at the kid, and he's watching the bird. And I was just like, grab the kid and run. You can do both. I mean, this is not... Or grab the kit and then wait for the bird to come back with the next one. Doesn't matter. But no, it's kit to die anything. So I thought that was a little messed up.
Yeah. I think back then they just killed dogs to kill dogs. Like there was no good reason for Old Yeller either. There was a lot of examples of like these are dogs, man.
Old Yeller had rabies.
Yeah, like why did we need to write that and why did we need to market to children to teach them about death?
Because the 50s.
Oh, I know. 50s were really hard on people, especially kids.
But that's not a kid's movie to shoot the dog.
Like the good dinosaur.
That's
His
Disney's
whole entire
MO.
family dies.
Why did Bambi have to get mowed down by hunters or Bambi's mom in the beginning of Bambi?
Well,
no fucking reason.
Loved killing a parent, if not
did.
both. I mean, every single Disney movie had, except for there was one. Oh, Sleeping Beauty had both, but generally every single movie there was only one or none. So
and think about it like this: some of those generations of kids grew up and killed their parents.
Yeah.
Like I know that's dark as shit, but like if you think about it, it's like we were taught to kill. We were taught it was cool to kill our parents in the beginning of our movie. Like, let's just kill one of your parents. You got a second one. I mean, what the fuck?
Yeah.
These were moral lessons that Disney was teaching us.
So at an early age, like the Black Hole came out in what, 79?
About that.
I always watched it when it came on to HBO. It was one of the perks of being a Navy brat. They always had HBO as part of the cable package on the base.
Yep.
And it always came on, and I would always watch it, and I always cheer whenever Maximilian would come on the screen and mow somebody down, and kind of distract my dad.
Everything I watched was I watched Watership Down, which is them slaughtering rabbits. Yeah. And there's my husband. All right.
You're good. You're good.
Honey, are you talking about Watership Down?
What about you, Jenny? Like, what's something that you remember like from growing up that like it's hard to explain and people have never heard of?
I'm trying to think of one because a lot of the ones that I would remember, most people didn't think existed. They have been finding on TikTok, and like people are like, yeah, I kind of remember that. It's like the Camelot or movie or whatever. But most of the stuff I watched, it's like, oddly enough, recently, one of my favorites, Dexter, but a lot of people know that. I'm trying to find one. But they
Kronk
had
Smash.
on, still toking, they had Mandark on as a guest.
Yep.
And I was like, holy cow, I get book recommendations from this actor I've seen all my life.
Oh yeah.
That
Hey.
was
Mandark's cool as shit.
Anyway, What I Ship Down, that was actually my favorite book, but I was watching it when I was like 6. So, but
I saw it at a young age too.
yeah, in the last Unicorn, it wasn't as violent, but it was pretty dark.
Yeah.
And
A
I
lot
don't
of
know.
people don't remember Last Unicorn a lot. Like a lot of people have just written that off.
That
And
was
some people
Some of the
think,
best animation.
and some people for some stupid reason, and I cannot understand this, they somehow combined Last Unicorn and Legend as if they were one project.
Yeah, why is that?
I don't know, but it's like a common thing with people, and like they're not even.
I think it's because it involves a unicorn
I know,
Yeah,
but
and-
one's
could be.
animated and one's not.
and maybe Tom
Um,
Cruise. I don't know.
Yeah, but there was also
in the
Tim
last
Curry
Unicorn.
in one.
No.
So that was
Yeah,
great.
Tom
It
Cruise is
wasn't.
in Last Unicorn, but I don't remember him being. Is he in Legend?
He's in Legend.
Tom
Oh, yeah, he's
Cruise
in
is
Legend, but not-
Legend, but he's not in
Right.
the last
Yeah, he's not
Unicorn.
Last. Yeah. So yeah, I don't
Last
get that connection.
Unicorn, I think to this day is some of the best animation. I
Yeah.
mean, that is some gorgeous. I think it was British. Is that British? I think it was British. Not
I
sure.
don't remember.
When
Was that-
people talk,
Is that one of those Bansky type?
Is it one of what?
Bashki?
I don't know what that means.
The animator. There's an animator named Bashki who did like. Let me think. He did Fritz the Cats.
oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about
And,
now. I just forgot the name.
I believe he also was the animator behind the Heavy Metal, the movie.
I remember Heavy Metal. I remember Heavy Metal, and what's the and Fire and Ice were the two
Oh yeah,
Okay.
weird
yeah.
adult cartoon animations that I've seen.
No, Jenny, pretend for a minute some of these were not recently discovered or discussed on TikTok. Let's pretend that didn't happen.
Why they were?
No. There was
Well,
so she was talking
it's
to
like the
about.
movie where they discovered an entire city and under their sink. I can't remember the name of that, but there was
Under
a
the
Was that-
sink?
Was that one?
Is that the Littles?
You mean Indian in the cupboard?
no Indian in the
Or the
Cupboard
Littles.
was
That's what I was thinking of.
two. Both of those were two different ones.
Yeah.
Because it was not the Littles. It was not It
I remember
wasn't
the cartoon, the
borrowers, but it's an entirely different movie.
Huh.
Because I compared. I watched all those, and there was
Okay.
another one where there was like pirates in a pirate ship in the middle of like a wheat field. I don't remember if anybody saw that movie.
No.
I would have
No.
to have more information to know because that strikes a weird chord in
Tim
my brain, but I
Curry
can't.
was the ship
Only-
captain on that one.
The
Was that-
only
Peter
pirate
Pan and
movie.
the Pirates.
the only pirate movie that he's ever done was Muppet Treasure Island.
Well,
I remember that
he
one.
was the voice of Captain Hook and Peter Pan and the Pirates.
No, I mean like in person, like physical.
Oh, okay.
However, he was on a ship in another film, a comedy
Pirates
called
of the
McHale's
Plane?
Navy.
Is it
Pirates
Pirates of the Plane? That was
yeah,
that's the one you're talking about because that has Tim Curry in it.
yeah,
Really?
that did. Yeah, it says so on the thing that it has Tim
I
Curry in
remember
it.
Pirates of the
Yeah.
Plane, but I completely forgot. Tim Curry was in
1999
that.
family adventure Pirates of the Plane.
And I don't know.
I
what
remember
the
like
name of
Jeffrey
the one
Butler
with
Ford, and I remember Dee Wallace in that, but I don't know why I don't remember him in that.
Curious.
A young
Yeah,
boy
it's gotta
lived on
be.
the farm. Huh, I never heard of this.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at the picture. I do remember him in this now. Yeah, but this is
Oh,
exactly.
yeah.
This has got to be what you're referring to.
Yeah,
And
Pirates
then
of
the
Plane.
Secret Kingdom is the name of the movie where they're under the sink.
What is it?
There's a city
Kingdom?
under the sink.
Okay, Secret Kingdom.
I'm trying
Secret
to
Kingdom.
think of other stuff I have seen.
Under the sink. Under the sink.
The Secret Kingdom. It doesn't show me pictures. I want to see pictures.
Go to
You can-
images.
IMDb
Yeah, IMDb.
shows you the pictures and
Yeah,
videos.
IMDb would be better because images they just have like movie posters.
Yeah.
All I see is a dragon. I don't see anything.
Well, see, because they have Secret Kingdom, Shrunken City, and the Tiny Kingdom.
Yeah.
I never heard of
it's
any
the
of these.
Secret Kingdom that is definitely the one I'm talking about. And I think my
Nice.
shirt is on backwards.
Sometimes mine's on backwards, inside out. Sometimes I'm lucky I even remembered pants before I walked out the door.
Oh
So,
yeah, it says hidden beneath two siblings' bedroom floor lies a land of enchantment in the need of protection from an ancient enemy. I never heard of these movies.
Like that.
I feel ripped off. The only
Wait,
other
is
thing
this
underneath.
was released this year? Was this released this year?
No,
No,
this one was
no.
from 1998. Right now,
Yeah,
I'm
it's an
talking
older
Be a
one.
remake.
from like whenever I was.
This
little.
says the Secret Kingdom 2023.
I mean,
Yeah,
most people doing a
whereas-
remake then.
Yeah, there may be a remake.
Mhm.
And
I
I'm
feel
excited.
gypped. Like
this came out
when I was
last
a
month. I
kid,
never
like
heard of this.
the only thing underneath my floor when I was a kid was like maybe a dead body or something. Like there was no like secret world where I could go and like
remember
play games and do things.
Cat's Eye.
King Cat's Eye, that's a good one.
Yeah, no, I give up on this thing. Yeah,
Fuck that fucking thing. That's what I say.
I give up. I've been running on migraine for like 2 days, so I'm just gone. What
Ever
other-
since the movie?
Say what?
Ever since the movie?
No, I've been watching Transformers a lot with my kid, but that's not why I have a headache. There's a totally different reason why I have a migraine.
Oh,
But that's a
okay.
problem for another show. But let's see. Thing I can't. I don't know. Why do I have Dragon Tail suddenly playing in my head? I blame Dante.
I don't know. I was thinking when he was saying things that people didn't know, I was thinking of Shirt Tails and Get Along Gang because
Yeah.
they
I
were
remember Shirt Tails.
always
both of
mixed. Like everyone always thought they were the same thing, and I was like, no, Get Along Gang is completely different than Shirt Tails.
Completely
Yeah.
different characters, different
Yeah.
adventures.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
anybody ever
Dude,
watch Salute My Shorts?
I've heard of it, but I never
Do
watched
you
it.
want me to sing the theme song? Because I know the whole theme song to Salute Your Shorts. I'm a big Nick kid, man. Like
This is
I was really
Nickelodeon,
getting my
right?
shit together. It all
I never
started
did.
with Alanis Morissette on "You Can't Do That on Television."
She was
Dude,
on that?
I own
That's
like
how she got her
every
start in
Are You Afraid to Die?
everything.
I had no idea. I just
That's how she
remember
got
the I don't know thing. but-
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
hit with slime.
Slime. Yep.
Yeah. She that's her claim to fame. That's how she got started in every industry. She was in that show because it was a Canadian TV show. A lot
not
of
know
early
that.
Nick was Canadian.
I also remember, what is it, Double Dare?
Double
Double
Dare,
Dare?
Family
Yeah.
Double Dare.
Double
So,
Dare was the host there had
Mark Summers.
severe OCD.
It was
Really?
worse than that.
And-
So
yeah.
Mark had OCD and he was a germaphobe. I know
Yeah.
this because I met him twice in my life. Once when I was a kid, Double Dare will come to your town, and there was these Nickelodeon fairs that happened like all over the fucking world in different cities everywhere. And I lived by a couple different big cities, and it came to my town. Well, he was setting up, and like for some reason, like no one was really talking to him or anything at all. So my mom like went and parked us in front of his line. He talked to us for like almost an hour. Even put me and my brother and my sister on the little show they had, that was only for local whatever. And we talked to him a lot, and he would not shake our hands because he had a germ issue, but he hugged us individually, like a quick kind of like a side hug. So then later in life, I was part of a production that was trying to bring back Pressure Luck because it was my favorite game show as a kid. And we had everything in place. We had investors. We had everything. We built a brand new board, had the model of it done, had the set built. And we were asked if you could have anyone host this, who would you want it to be? My partner and I had both had these private experiences with Mark Summers as children. We were like, Mark Summers. We approached him, got him on board. That's when I also got to meet Ben Edlin, who, if you don't know, created The Tick and also worked for Supernatural and a lot of other big, programs.
No,
And
I love Supernatural.
He's the original cartoonist for the Whammies on Pressure Luck as well. So like we had everything going together. I got to actually have a whole a lunch meeting, which was like about 4 or 5 hours long with Ben and Mark in the same place. And then 3 weeks later, the Game Show Network stepped on our heads and took the whole project and did something different and re-released the show without Mark, without any of the stuff we were doing. It was shitty.
That was cool.
Sorry,
Yeah.
about the squirrel, but yeah, Mark is a
Out
cool
of-
fucking guy, man.
Out of curiosity, how many people who watched the original press your luck. Always rooted for the whammies.
Me always.
Because I'm like,
Which one's
whammy,
Press Your
whammy,
Luck?
whammy.
Is that the one with the?
No
I
whammy,
don't-
no whammy, stop.
Oh, I do know that one. I don't think
Yeah,
I
it had
watched
like the
it
little
that much.
devil like creatures, and like you had to spin
Oh
around
yeah,
the board.
okay.
There was that guy that figured out the pattern and scammed them, and kind of like all the.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Did
But-
anybody else get to be Bill Nye's volunteer?
I did not.
I have a
I
lot
never
of
watched Bill Nye.
mixed feelings about him.
Okay.
Whenever I
mixed
was a
feelings.
kid,
Is it the bow tie?
everything was different than it is now because we know nothing. I knew nothing. He
Yeah.
was just Bill Nye, the science guy, and he'd come to our mall, and that was our field trip.
How do you people all meet these people? I never met anybody.
I have been to a family reunion for his family in which he was present.
Huh.
His was
I
it
should leave my house more.
no, his niece. Yeah, Emily was his niece, and Emily and I dated for 4 months. It's one of those relationships where you start to date someone and it's super weird and you just realize that you're really good friends kind of a thing. It was one of those, and we had broken up, but she was like, hey, I don't want to go to this alone. You know, no one's really talked to my uncle in a long time. No one's talked to this member of the family or that many family. And everybody showed up, including him. He was there for a very small amount of time, but no one spoke to each other. Like everybody sat at these little tables like, hey, it's been a while. Yep.
Sounds
Okay,
like the
bye.
opposite of my Italian family. They never shut the hell up.
I was really
It was
more of a
really weird and awkward.
I was really more of a Beekman's World kind of guy.
Me, I'm all Mr. Wizard. I grew up
Both of
Mr.
them are
Wizard.
very
That's
good.
what I like.
We're gonna need another Timmy.
It's weird because when I started doing like volunteer work and stuff as a kid, the first place that I wanted to work was a science museum. So I'm 12 years old and I get this job, like, you know, like literally teaching kids about, you know, whatever random shit. And then 6 months later, I'm being trained as like, you know, the smaller reptile handler to teach kids. And then later that same summer, I got hired into the chemistry department where literally my whole job was to recreate all kinds of household experiments for children. And I think I was prouder and happier about my youth spent watching Mr. Wizard than I was at any other point in my life since. But it's magical to see kids like in that moment, you know, like we did a mini Hindenburg recreation. We took 3 balloons, we did hydrogen, helium, and just oxygen, and then lit them on fire and showed them what would happen. And you know,
Science is fun. But going back to the TV shows, though, I have an entire list since I grew up primarily in the 80s. Now, there was a stretch. I remember watching the original Fraggle Rock when it was on HBO back in 1983. There was a stretch in the 90s where I had to explain to people what a Fraggle was, that the show actually exists. And yes, they had tiny little creatures that lived with them and built structures out of turnips. And they would always eat the structures, so job security.
those, oh yeah,
The
and you had your
talking
dozers too.
Yeah.
Right.
That was an
But-
awesome show. It
but-
wasn't short. Wasn't it like 5 seasons? It was a long.
Yeah, that was great. But there was also like shows like, does anybody remember Out of This World?
I remember that.
Oh, that sounds so familiar.
I don't remember. I
that's
just
the-
remember it. I don't remember watching it.
It's a syndicated TV show about a teenage girl who finds out her father is an alien, and she has these magic powers. It's kind of like Sabrina the Teenage Witch, the original, only with an alien that could stop time, and started developing.
It sounds really familiar.
Yeah, it was made around. It was broadcast around the same time as The Small Wonder.
I remember the Small Wonder, the
Yeah.
little robot
You're
girl.
Vicky.
Yeah, it's like mid to late 80s,
I remember Small Wonder.
syndicated. But
I used to
also,
watch that. Punky Brewster. I used to
Oh,
watch
yeah.
Punky Brewster.
Yeah.
What
I
I'm
do
trying-
remember Out of This World.
there was
Mayo was in it. Yeah.
2 shows that I really, really want a revival of that nobody seems to remember is Automan and The Misfits of Science.
Misfits of Science, I remember. I don't think I remember Automan, though.
Oh,
Which one?
Automan, 1984. Basically, it's about a cop who stumbles upon AI who, at night, would assemble itself into kind of a Tron-like Automan, you know?
Okay, I was going to
Help.
say, it reminds me of like a little Tronish from looking at pictures.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I remember this Out of This World with that crystal thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember this.
There we go.
Now, I would also say Quantum Leap, but that's
I love Quantum Leap.
everybody remembers that, and also it got a revival.
You got a revival?
I've not watched the revival yet.
Yeah,
Is it good?
It's a continuation, and
Is he in it, or is it other people?
it's other people.
Oh, screw it then.
Yeah. However,
Stop reviving things. Make up your own shit.
Well, one of
However,
them is dead, so he kind of can't revive. We can't have a full revival.
Very true.
So they got the daughter of Al in there, and she's like a hacktivist.
Oh, I hadn't
guess.
heard about that yet. That's fucking.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to watch it because I'm a big Quantum Leap fan. So, I
It's-
will watch it.
It's decent. However, they're missing the spirit of the original.
Yeah. I mean, nobody remembers. I don't know if you know that this isn't that long ago, but True Calling with
Yes, I do.
Elijah Duskous. Nobody
I
ever.
do.
I'm like, how do you not know that? And there's Dollhouse, but I didn't watch Dollhouse till after Dollhouse with Elijah Duskous. I
Yeah.
watched it way after it was out, and I love Joss Whedon. I hadn't watched it when it was out,
Yeah.
but we actually
I've
just watched
actually-
it.
I had never heard of True Calling until just now. I just looked it up. I've never seen this, but I've seen
True
Dollhouse.
Calling- Yeah, it had
Yeah.
Jason Priestley in it, and
Okay.
it's not anything like it, but for some reason I always think of Dark Angel when I think of it.
I remember
because they
Dark
both had
Angel.
2 seasons, and I love Dark Angel because the sad part was I hated the second season, but the second season had Jensen, and I love Jensen, so I hated that dog guy. Like, it just, I don't know. I remember him annoying me. Maybe it's not as bad if I watch it again. I just remember him annoying me.
No, here's what I've learned from watching shows I really liked at any age growing up. I'll remember a show fondly, but there will be things about it that I remember irritating me. And I'll think, oh, I'm an adult now. I'll think differently. I go back and watch these things. No, it's exactly the same. The same things still irritated me as
It
they
always
always did
bothered
before.
me because, like, I don't know if you guys watch Dark Angel, but Jensen was actually really nice to her all the time, and she was such a bitch to him. Like he would just help her nonstop, and she would either leave him or yell at him or whatever. So she was so mean to him, and it just bothered the hell out of me. That's even before I liked him. I just like, why are you so mean to him?
It was like a
he didn't
Buffy
do
and
anything.
Angel setup, except for she was just an asshole to him there was no hot
time.
and cold like with Buffy and Angel. It was just
No,
cold
right.
and dark and like fuck you all the time. But I want
It was
all your help and
never-
do all these things for me. But fuck you.
Yeah, I mean, I think he almost died for her like twice. Like he
least.
he said, "I'll never go back to that place again," and then he goes back to save her, and she still doesn't thank him. And I'm just like,
Yep.
you're such a bitch. It ruined it for me because I love Jensen,
We've all
and I
had
thought he was like
relationships
super
just
cute
like
and
that.
super nice, and yeah,
True.
bothered the hell out of me.
Jenny. Jenny. Give me another show, Jenny. Show,
Give
movie,
you another
whatever you want
show?
here. Yeah, give us another one, Jenny.
Let's see. Trying to think of things that I did watch because
All of mine are cartoons, like the Wazzles or whatever. What's the
Wuzzles.
Wuzzles.
Let me bring up the smooth jazz again.
I had a
okay.
Wuzzle. Well, they made the toys for those. I remember those.
Yeah, the Bumble line was the only one I really liked.
Things
That's
that
the
are
only one
coming
everybody
to my
liked.
mind are things like Mr. Ed and MASH and X-Men and well, of course, Ninja Turtles. My
Yeah.
childhood was weird.
But Mr. Ed is one of those weird
Super,
ones, though. Like,
Super Friends. I used to watch Super
Yeah,
Friends,
yeah.
The Smurfs,
Super Friends.
Gummy Bears. These are all my Saturday.
oh my God,
morning-
Matt, who's also on the network. Oh, nice. The Wuzzle theme song.
You have the best freaking TV.
I was trying to explain to Matt the other day what the gummy bears was. And I'm
Gummy
like, so
bears,
it's these
jumping
bears,
around,
right?
man.
They
What's the
drink this
best?
juice that makes them bounce everywhere.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
sure it's a drug, and it's definitely addictive because there's a whole episode about how if
Probably
you drink
acid.
too much, it's bad.
Yeah.
And so we had this whole weird long conversation about it, man. And then it just ended in me like just singing the whole theme song, just sitting down and singing the whole thing. Of course, Michelle knows this, so she sang with me. Yeah,
What's the Black Mantis? That sounds familiar.
that was actually a pretty good TV show. Yeah, that was a sci-fi TV superhero show. Black Mantis came out not too much of a time difference from the Flash TV show in the 90s.
Well,
It
I
was
remember
another-
what was it? The Greatest American Hero. That
Greatest
was-
American
yeah.
Hero.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That show was amazeballs.
I'm walking on
Yeah,
there. That was
man.
the best.
I remember having to see that in choir for some reason.
They actually
odd.
did a revival briefly with a female relative of the main character
Okay.
taking the
I heard of
suit.
Man, I don't remember that at all. I remember like we had the coolest things. I remember whenever the word special would come on the screen and then twirl and it would be like
Mm.
the special and then it was like Garfield or whatever was coming on. Like that was like, oh, it's starting. Of course, I
I'm a
remember
sucker
when
for
you had to go
Garfield.
to the bathroom during commercials.
Well, you kids, you got to understand that when the Greatest American Hero came out, there was this amazing movie called Superman the Motion Picture.
Mhm.
It just came out, and it blew everybody's minds. Poof! And because he made you believe that a man could fly.
Mhm.
So all the networks and the movie studios were scrambling to rip off this concept.
And then you have those kids who try to fly and they break their head open on the coffee table.
I jumped
the
right
roof.
the fuck off the
Coffee
bunk beds
table.
after I watched Superman to see if I could fly too, because I thought if I
Coffee
believed in
table.
myself enough, I wanted to hard lesson in life that day.
That's
I
why
did
you go
not have
outside to jump out of a tree.
Yeah, see, that's why I was smart because our bunk beds, one went like this way and the other one went the opposite direction. So you could jump off your bunk bed and there was still another bed down there in the opposite direction. So I did that, but I overshot it because I really believed in myself and hit my jaw on the bedpost.
Ow.
Okay, so Christmas of 1981. All of the cousins are gathered together on the Case family farm outside of Bloomfield, Nebraska. And we all get this new thing that just came out called underoos. We all got a different superhero.
I had Wonder
motif.
Woman.
I got Green Lantern for some odd reason.
Oh, there's pictures of me in my Wonderoos.
All night, all the cousins were just jumping around in their underwear, and they couldn't get us to bed because we were now superheroes.
Not gonna lie, when I did my my flying dive off of that thing, I had the Superman one on with the Velcro cape, miniature cape that you could Velcro to the back. I had it on.
Really?
I'm pretty sure that cape was flapping as I was falling to my death, but you know, I'm sure it looked cool to see.
I love that. I mean, I loved Wonder Woman. Did not like the invisible plane. Thought that was weird, but I did want to be Wonder Woman.
I forgot there was comments.
Oh yeah, I completely forgot.
Hi,
I
Ray.
mentioned it.
Hi,
I was about to say hi to Josh, but I did bring up Black Mantis when I saw Ray pop that up there. That's why I brought it up because I meant to bring it up and talk about it, but instead I just forgot to bring it on the screen and talked about it anyway.
Okay, I have it backed up so I can start paying attention to those. And hey, Josh, look at the text message and do the thing, please.
Yes, do the things, all the things.
Do it. Do it.
You have failed this city. Sorry, I had to.
Not for the last time.
Yeah, there was something that Carissa actually posted on Facebook about like if you could only watch one movie for the rest of your life.
Yes.
What would it be? And it kind of got me thinking that we should do that. Like right here, we should all like just do that now.
I stand by The Mummy.
The Mummy. Which one?
Mummy.
The first one or the franchise in general?
Brendan Fraser. I could watch it over and over. I read the book, the novel, whatever. I loved it. I could watch it over and over again. I could watch that, Shaun of the Dead, or Wrong Turn as many times as it's playing. So,
fun fact about Wrong Turn that you may not know:
it's the rest of them are porn.
Well, I mean, they did something in the first one that was almost revolutionary in the horror effects world. If you look at the razor wire strangulation scene that happens towards the beginning of the movie,
she's breathing.
Look at the blood it's coming up. They found a way to have the blood actually be what the real color of blood is, and you see it as it's exposed out of the cut actually turn red like it's supposed to. Because the cut was so deep, they were able to simulate with the blood. Yeah, freeze frame it and like bring it up.
I did watch the commentaries, and I did hear how incredibly awful it was to be underneath that bed in the dirt.
I believe it.
Yeah, Elijah Duskus and the other guy said that it was the most horrifying experience ever, and that the director said, I was trying to be really good, and I went under it to prove that it's okay, and I couldn't stand it and came out like he couldn't do it. So that was I could watch that, but in order it'd be Brendan Fraser, Shaun of the Dead, or Wrong Turn. I could just I love those movies.
So we'll do top 3 then, because that seems.
There you go.
So,
those are my top 3.
I'll get to mine. However, I do need to rectify something from the night we did the unboxing.
Okay.
So I actually opened up the DVD Blu-ray thing that we got, and we missed some goodies inside of it.
Uh-oh.
So packed with the discs are a couple of stickers.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that is awesome.
Production
then-
sticker, yeah.
That's cool.
And that was
that-
from Killer Goats, right?
Yes.
The Kane
Killer
Hodder box and
Goats.
Killer Goats from the Return of the Living Dead company.
And this, we have,
Oh, like lobby cards.
Yep.
Yeah. Those are cool, man.
Are you selling ghosts now? We are a little creepy, but
That's a new Kane Hodder movie.
yep.
I
Where
think
he
it's
plays
the
the
eyes.
Goat Man.
Those are alien eyes. I don't care what anyone says.
That's
Stand by that.
cool, man. Oh,
Just
nice.
a bunch of like lobby cards.
Yeah.
So
We'll have to tag them in this later, too, so they see that we put those up as well. That's really neat, man.
yeah, maybe I should have opened it up that night, but it was a thing of
Well, I mean,
beauty. I didn't want.
We knew that there were more stickers and lobby cards, and then we just didn't know what they were. But now,
Right.
now we know.
You
And
know
we'll
when
actually
you're
probably
battle.
do. Exactly. What I might
So-
do is when I cut the video that just shows what that has, I may cut in this, just a little spot of you showing it up, if that's all right with you, just to kind of include it.
You do what you need to do.
And
But,
Dante
yeah.
says hi and sends more rainbow hugs and kisses, apparently.
Oh, hello.
Aw.
I
I
was like,
love
what?
you.
So my three, by the way, and I'm going to bend down and pick this up that fell down.
Don't get lost.
Oh my gosh, guys! There's like an entire civilization underneath here. It's weird.
Jenny has seen this movie.
Movies.
At least 5 times. As a
At
kid.
least.
If I
And
was
now he's
given
living it.
3, okay. So it's going to surprise a lot of people. Anyway,
Fuck that fucking thing. Just leave it there, man.
surprise there.
Let it go there to die.
Shit.
Shitballs.
Was everybody dropping shit now? Like that's the two at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Weird. So anyway,
Synchronized dropping.
so my first pick would be The Shawshank Redemption.
Good
That would
movie.
be my husband's. That's a good choice.
I live right near the prison
Yeah.
that it was filmed at.
Second one always is going to be Evil Dead 2.
Nice.
Third, the movie from 1989. 1989 was a big year for movies, but the one that never gets any love would be UHF.
I watched that
My
movie every
husband
couple
loves
months.
that movie too.
Yeah.
I wore out the VHS copy. Had to get the DVD.
Fun fact about this. I know that you've already seen the Weird Al Yankovic biopic movie that wasn't really a biopic.
Yep.
Did you know that a lot of the studying Daniel Radcliffe specifically did was watching Weird Al acting in UHF? And if you think about that movie, and then like I actually watched that first and then watched the biopic, and the whole time I'm going, oh my God, Daniel Radcliffe is playing Weird Al, playing himself. And it blew my fucking mind in a whole other level than it probably normally would have.
I am so glad that Daniel Radcliffe was able to break out of a potential pigeonholing.
He did it easily though, because
Yeah.
right after that he did the Frankenstein Project, where he was Igor, Swiss Army Man, where he played the dead body. Like holy fuck! Like he was naked on Broadway for a while because he went over to Broadway. Like he probably had the
I watched
quickest.
Horns.
Yeah, he probably had the quickest breaking out of the pigeonholing from being a child actor that I have ever seen in the industry, and it was done in such a beautiful, like, inspiring fucking way, dude. Like,
Yeah. All the others would have just gone crazy on a binge or something.
and he did though. He did have his moments where he got really into drinking, really into drugs. He talks about that actually, also some of which was happening towards the end of him filming for Harry Potter. Even he's been very open about a lot of that, but it didn't. He didn't lose himself to it like a lot of people do, I think.
That's good. Because the Weird Al Yankovic mockumentary is brilliant.
It was
I
totally.
especially love the scene where he's inspired to write My Bologna. It's just, what do I do? What do I do? Ka-chink.
I like how the only thing that was true, or the most true, was him buying from a door-to-door salesman.
Yeah.
His parents
He's
were
like,
the accordion. Yep.
I don't remember my dad beating anyone up.
He said also when they recorded in the bathroom of the college, that actually happened in the bathroom of a bus station. So there were a number of things that were similar, but then obviously a lot of
Just
shit.
to
Like,
make you wonder.
I love
Yeah.
the Madonna angle. That was one of the funniest things to me. But
Right.
the
I
real
actually
star
saw
of that
Weird
show.
Al. I saw him in concert here. But
Oh, he comes
wasn't
here a
singing
lot, but
much.
I've never been able to afford it, man. I
I
want to
was just
so bad.
upset because he wasn't singing any. The thing said that he would sing all your favorite classics of the parodies. But then when you get there, there's a pamphlet that said he's not singing any of the parodies. So I didn't know any of the songs. So I was a little disappointed in that because
Well,
that was
I
obviously
performed in front of my entire junior high a version of the Bedrock Anthem. Me and my buddy dressed as cavemen and got up on stage and performed the whole thing with mics. But we didn't mime it. We sang the whole fucking thing. And yeah, I
To
love me
this
some Weird Al.
day,
that's pretty
this-
talented.
to this day, his song "Happy Birthday" is the only one I sing to people. It's great. But
So Jenny, what are your three?
My three?
Three movies. You can only watch them for the rest of your life.
Okay, well, odds are I do these a lot. So the three that I already watch a lot, just for no reason other than sound, there is Starship Troopers.
Would you like to know more?
we'll never get through the three.
I love Starship Troopers, man.
Midnight in the Garden, Good and Evil.
Oh, very good.
Oh,
And,
Wait, what is this? I don't know this one.
Midnight
that's
in the
Rosie
Rosie
Garden,
O'Donnell.
O'Donnell, right?
What is
Oh,
it called?
that's-
Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. It is
Yeah,
a
I've
book
never heard of
and a
this one.
movie.
Yep, the book is
And
also
the book
just as
is
good
so
as the
much
movie.
better, but I love the movie anyway. Oh yeah, and I got thrown off. The third one. That one's hard because I'm torn.
Just say
I mean,
Star
like-
Wars and be done with it.
No,
It wouldn't be Star Wars for Jenny. That wouldn't make her top three, man. Come
Or
on.
Star Trek item. Star Trek 4. The Voyage Home.
is that the one with the whale? I keep on
Yes.
mixing up the
Yes,
names.
it is.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, you got me in a box on that one as a kid. Okay,
That's the
yes,
one where
I
Spock
watched that
cusses on the
a
bus,
million
yes.
times as a kid, and I'm not going to deny that. That and the first Star Wars movie. Yes, I watched those 15 million times as a kid. I am not denying that, but
It's just not top three status for you.
Mm,
no, I've probably watched them way too many times.
Yeah.
I think The
trying to
Force
narrow
Awakens
down
is
the
the
third one.
best movie out of the Star Wars. I
I believe in you,
patiently
Jenny.
I patiently
Believe in me,
await your
fine.
emails.
I believe in you. Give us the third movie. You got
Third
this.
movie. I don't care if anybody has a problem with it. Probably The Conjuring. No,
Oh, that's actually one of my favorite horror films.
no, not The Conjuring, but the Connecticut one.
Oh, Honey in Connecticut.
Yeah, probably.
That's a
the
good one,
one.
too.
Connecticut, I live right by there. Actually, passed by
Because,
the house.
well, I have a friend I was talking to there. Yes.
I drove
is
all the way
so
to
awesome.
Connecticut recently.
The Warrens
That's a good movie,
Museum was there. I was never brave enough to go.
I want to
But-
go so bad because they're still operating it.
It used to be $120 for a private tour that was not open to the public, and you could not touch Annabelle.
Correct.
You couldn't even touch
Annabelle.
the case. Well, two guys did touch it, and then they died in an accident on the way home.
Well, they sold the doll.
Excellent.
The doll
With my
actually
Raggedy
got
Andy.
sold. The
It's
doll
sold
was
now?
Okay, so here's what happened. Doll got sold to another private owner, someone that was, at least knew the Warrens, like someone that it would have been okay with it, having it, right? So this person inherits it, and then Zach Baggins, actually from Ghost Adventures, decided that he wanted to buy the doll because for the last 5 or 6 years, Zach Baggins is basically buying houses that are haunted, objects, and he's making movies and these documentaries about all these things he's buying that's haunted. It's like his new shtick or whatever. And he insulted the guy so fucking bad when they were meeting. The guy basically gave him the finger and cut the meeting short and left with Annabelle and would not sell it to him when he found out
What
what he
did he
wanted
say
to do.
to him?
Zach was wanting to make a big thing out of it and touch the doll and make this big production out of it, basically disrespect the shit out of the doll for the sake of making something that people were going to watch. And it really upset the guy. I mean, understandably, I would have walked away from him too.
I'm curious. Did they say how much he's going to pay? Because I'm curious how much you would pay. For
I don't
Annabelle.
know for sure, but all the information's public and there's video and stuff.
For those who only know Annabelle from the movie, the actual doll looks nothing like that.
Raggedy Ann.
Yep, it's a big
Yeah.
old fluffy.
That was another
Falling apart
cartoon I
Raggedy Ann.
loved. I loved Raggedy Ann and Annie and that weird camel toy thingy.
Oh yeah, I've been playing that for the kids with like Transformers, and I found out compared to the new strawberry shortcake and the old strawberry shortcake, I'd rather watch my kids' strawberry shortcake than mine.
I love
Because
strawberry shortcake and
it was an
the
acid
baker's
trip.
dozen. Yeah, I had
Was
the
it
doll. It did smell
The
like
purple
strawberries.
plum dude, whatever, they did like the little tap dance when he said his name. Like,
It's probably poison in that doll. It makes it smell like strawberries for 30 years.
oh yeah, man.
Asbestos.
That's good to know.
So I got to do my top three. My first
Yes,
one's going to be
please.
horror film. Everybody knows Nightbreed is my favorite movie of all time. / the book version Cabal is my favorite book of all time. This is a widely known thing about me. A slightly less known thing is while in kindergarten, I watched 16 Candles.
That is a horror movie.
I watched it 141 times to this
I've never
day,
seen it.
just in kindergarten. It is the
Puberty
movie that I've
itself
seen
is a
most.
horror
I've now
movie.
seen it more than 400 times.
Damn.
And yeah, for some reason, I don't know why. I could not tell you why. I just got fascinated with it as a child, and it became such a comfort thing to me. And I love his movies anyway. So I mean, I watched God all
I
of
guess
them.
we should watch it then, huh?
Even though,
And you'd think it would be Weird Science. I love that one too, but for some reason, I don't know why. It was 16 Candles.
You
And
see,
I have had birthdays that have been forgotten completely by everyone around me too. Like it was like a weird prophecy. I love this movie, and then it actually happened to me a couple times in real life. So that's super weird.
I was disgusted that she never went with Ducky.
Yes,
No.
but also Ducky got super weird, and they went with a really dark, I don't know, angle with him. Like later on,
enough.
after that made yeah, that was just a really weird situation with Ducky. I don't even want to describe it too much, but if you
Everyone's
really
mad
think
that
about
you
it,
picked the wrong one, right? Is that the one?
yeah. But then he got her underwear and showed it to everybody, and that was a whole really super weird thing that happened in that movie.
Alrighty then.
Yeah, no, because he wanted to get with her and thought he was going to get laid, and he promised people that he'd get laid, so he basically begged her and harped on her until
Both
she's like,
sound like
"Here, have
dicks.
my underwear," and he just went outside and like held the underwear up, and these guys are cheering. And even as a kid, I'm going, I'm like 4 or 5 years old, and I'm like, what is this shit?
Yeah.
Like what, Mom? What the fuck?
Wow.
I
Yeah.
didn't say
so-
fuck because she'd have beat my ass, but I wanted to on the inside.
And
Every
that's
time
the
everyone says that I shouldn't have said that, it makes me think of what is it, The Christmas Story? But only I didn't say fudge.
God, my third movie.
Don't say
Like those
Christmas
are
Story.
1 and 2 are like super easy for me. What'd you say?
Don't say
Fragile.
Christmas Story.
No, I like Christmas Story a lot. That was a family tradition. That
I've
and
never
That's
seen that
on
movie.
oh, I'm sorry, man. It's great. It's a
See,
beautiful movie.
Yeah,
They
like
actually they just
There's
made
like
a
7 of
sequel.
them, right? There's
No,
like
there's
7.
only there's 3 Christmas Story
No,
movies.
there's a lot. There's a lot of them. But
No.
he's not in all of them.
No, there's only in canon 3. There's
Really?
the original one where he almost shoots his eye out with a BB gun. Then
Yeah.
there's and then there's a second one that's about it's a sequel, but it's same
It
house,
has-
same actors,
It
but
has
it's about like
Matthew
Thanksgiving.
Broderick.
I didn't see any of
Yeah.
them. I
And
mean,
then
besides the
and
first
then 3 just came out like the last year or so, like a year or two. It just came
one.
out
Okay,
out of
did you
nowhere.
watch it? The third
Oh, I
one?
fucking loved it because
Okay, is
Ralphie
it-
grew
why
up
does
to
it
be a
look like it's in
writer.
the same- Why does it look like it's in the same time period when he's an adult? It's not
Because
though,
it's-
right?
No, but they go back to the same town, and nothing in the town has changed.
That's pretty
So
cool.
the way they filmed it, it was like a nostalgia thing, but like literally nothing in town had changed.
Okay, I don't know where you're
Perfect.
from, Carissa, but I live right next to a small town that hasn't changed since the 60s.
Really?
Yes.
I actually love that. I would love a
So-
small town that's like stuck in like Pleasantville.
No,
Throw a
you
quarter down
wouldn't.
the street in Ohio, you'll find at least 5 in any direction.
Okay,
know
wait,
what
you gotta
kind-
pick your third one before we forget. What's your third one?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure out. I mean, like, everybody knows I'm like a horror guy. Like, that's kind of my thing. But like, when I think about like my most favorite movies, like, I think I have a lot of favorite horror, but like favorite overall. Okay, easy. Actually, third one's got to be Wayne's World, hands down. Third favorite movie is
Nice.
Wayne's World.
Nice.
That
I
did
saw
not
that
surprise
movie.
me.
I
That
saw
is
that
a
movie
really good
28 times when it was still in theaters, and my
Yeah.
grandmother, Ruby, watched it half of those times with me and loved it as much as I did.
I've never
Soundtrack is
seen
amazing.
that many. The only time I've ever seen a movie more times in the theater is I saw Harry Potter and the first Lord of the Rings 8 times each in the theater. I've never seen any other movie more than twice.
Well, I mean, when that movie came out, we had Flicker Palaces. Like, we actually had a place called Flicker Palace, but the original term for Flicker Palace is just a movie that charges like almost nothing to get like $1 to go see a movie, basically, like all week long. And it's usually movies that aren't brand new, but they've been out for a couple weeks or so. And we had one that actually called themselves that. So literally, I would just go, here's $1. I go to the one in Page Manor, same setup. Here's $1. You pay an extra 50 cents, you get a drink. You can buy a ticket for $2.50 and get popcorn, drink, and everything with it. And you see
I missed that. We had that too. It was called Edmond Town Hall, and it was $2, and popcorn's like $1. Soda's like $1. It was awesome.
Yeah, and then drive-ins. I grew up with drive-ins all the fuck over Ohio. We've still got 3 within driving distance from where I live right now. Oh yeah, Ohio.
It would be too hard to watch in Tennessee because it doesn't get dark till like 9:30. So like,
I mean, movies don't start until like 8:39, right? They start when they get a little bit dark. There's always going to be a little bit of light pollution. So what most drive-ins used to do, they would play the first movie over after the second movie, so you could see it again, but darker. And they did that. Well, the one I grew up with, the Dixie, had 2 screens. So you could literally watch 3 movies every night you went. And there was a couple times where I would just stay on the site of Wayne's World was on and watch it twice in one night. So it was really easy with the Flicker Palaces and the drive-ins, because when Wayne's World was out, the course of its run at the drive-in, it played with like 7 or 8 different movies during the course of it being out. That's how popular it was. So I got to see some other movies, but every time I went to the drive-in, like for 8 weeks solid, that was already Wayne's World twice.
I used to love drive-ins. We used to do that with the family in the Blazer, and you turn the truck around. And
I just saw Barbie there. We have pictures of us in the Barbie figure box. Brooklyn hasn't uploaded it, but I'll give it to you guys too, so like we can put it on the Allied stuff. But there's pictures of me in like Ken like poses inside a Barbie box.
Okay, so if you guys are ever out around this area of Nebraska for whatever reason, you may have lost a bet or something. But in Fremont, Nebraska, they opened up quite a few years ago, reopened up a drive-in theater, and every Halloween during the month of October, they tried out, like during the weekends, some great classic horror movies like from the 80s. One time it was like a theme where it's like The Blob, The Fly, the remakes.
Yeah.
The remakes of that, and then they played Chud, which we talked about during the
cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller.
Right. But and sometimes they start off with something for the kids too, like the original Ghostbusters, and then they move on, that kind of thing. But it's great. Now, going back to Wayne's World, though, I know they've had him before, but
sorry, I had to do it. It just felt appropriate, but
we just watched this a couple of months ago, so I'm like, yeah.
Nicely done. However, do you think that's the movie that kind of kicked off the big movie soundtrack phase?
Oh.
No, because horror had already done that. Horror films had already very firmly done that. I'm pretty sure Shocker came out before Wayne's World.
Okay.
The soundtrack to Shocker is fucking gorgeous.
Okay.
But the horror was very much known. In fact,
I like the Crow soundtrack.
Oh, that was a great one, actually. I fucking still listen to that one.
But as far as popularity goes.
Okay, go back to as early as in all the original Nightmare on Elm Street films. They all had albums, like actual fucking records you could buy, and they were
Nightmare on Elm Street 3, my first horror movie ever.
I think my first inadvertent movie soundtrack was AC/DC's Who Made Who, because that is technically the soundtrack to Maximum Overdrive.
Mine was Highlander.
That's a good. That's a good choice, man. That's a good one.
Oh, dude, Flash Gordon soundtrack is
Flash.
It's like it's the Queen album that nobody talks about.
Yep. One of the greatest
soundtracks more than I had regular albums.
I did too for the longest time. If you're a Blue Oyster Cult fan at all, which I'm a huge BOC fan, the best soundtrack ever in that case is Bad Channels. It is a full moon film about aliens that come down and invade a radio station. The entire movie is soundtracked by Blue Oyster Cult. It's fucking brilliant.
What is it called?
Bad Channels. It's a B80s movie. It's brilliant.
That's not the one with John Ritter, right? Which one was that one?
No, that's Stay Tuned, which I just watched again recently because I watch it a couple times every year.
Movie.
Love Stay Tuned.
There's another one called
John Ritter.
The Stoned Age. I think.
Oh, that's actually a really good stoner movie. That's a fucking.
It's in the title.
That does feature like Blue Oyster Cult.
Yep.
I haven't seen that one.
There was a lot of weird movies back in the 90s, like Cigarettes. Was it 200
yes.
Cigarettes? Go. Like, there was some really, like, these were, like, dramas mixed with, like, comedy, mixed with, like, what the fuck, that guy just lost his hand for no reason? Like, these really intense movies that came out of the 90s that were all like that. And they would have tons of famous people in them. And they were, like, vignette movies where there was all these little stories, but they were all connected together by, like, a club or a bar or some weird setting or thing they all had in common. And it was just this wild journey. And they don't make movies like that anymore. Like, I think Crash was one of the last ones they did.
80s
I was
and
really in
90s
that vein.
best
There was
movies.
one about a hotel that was done relatively.
You mean Four Rooms?
Bad Night at the L something or other.
No, it was before that one.
Okay. Four
Well, it
Rooms.
might not
yeah.
be
No, that
relatively.
Four Rooms is
it
old as
might
fuck.
be before 2010, but my brain is weird.
Okay.
If you figure it out,
It
let me
tells
know.
me 1998 is apparently longer ago than it feels.
Man, anytime I tell you that something that happened a while ago, that's going from like last Wednesday to like 30 years. I have no way to gauge time. All I can tell you is that it was a Wednesday and it was somewhere back in Nam. That's the only two things I'm sure of.
Yeah, that's fitting.
It was back in 1992. We couldn't say 90 on account of the president, and on account of the liberals.
Wow.
So I tied an onion to my belt, which was the
I
style at the
said
time.
that yesterday. I just told my husband was rambling on, and I said it was the style at the time, and he's like, "What?" I was like tying an onion to your belt. He didn't watch Simpsons as much as I did, but
Right.
which is very disappointing. Everything in my life could be quoted to a Simpsons episode. So
It was a yellow onion. I couldn't afford any of those fancy white onions.
Man, Simpsons was something I remember clear back to the Tracy Ullman show because my mom loved Tracy Ullman. That's how I grew up with the Simpsons. And everybody's like, "What's Tracy Ullman?" And I'm like, "You like the Simpsons and you've never heard of Tracy Ullman? What the fuck?"
I can remember the disappointment of like once in a while there'll be an episode where they don't have the Simpsons at a commercial break, and it won't be the whole episode. I remember my brother and I like waiting the entire episode, and there was no Simpson thing, and we're like, "That's blasphemy." It was like. Tracy Ullman wasn't even that funny. Like as far as I remember, I was a kid, so maybe I didn't get half the jokes. But we waited for the Simpsons to come on, and when it ever skips it, we're like, no, we gotta wait a whole other week. So yeah,
it was heartbreaking.
Well, I remember it was like 1989, Christmas of '89, when the Simpsons special came on, which was the big.
That was the first one,
debut.
Right?
And I remember watching it and thinking, I was 15 at the time, and I'm thinking, this is what everybody's going batshit about. All right. They got better. They got better.
Alabunga. I love that show. I mean, I got to be honest, I haven't watched it in the last couple of years, but I used to, even when I stopped watching it, I was watching the Halloween specials, and I kind of got away from that too. But
Treehouse of Horror,
Yeah, Treehouse of Horror was my favorite. I loved it.
There's a Monopoly edition of Treehouse of Horror where the figures are glow in the dark, and it's brilliant. I owned it for years. And if you buy it, you can send away for additional glow in the dark figures. They still market it. It's still something you can buy.
To this day, I have friends where we greet each other by going, boo, yee, boogie, boogie.
Some real talk about The Simpsons, and this leans a little bit into the mental health aspect of the show. If you guys haven't actually legit gone back and watched season 1, like no Tracy Ullman, just legit Simpsons season 1, it is actually one of the most fucked up and depressing cartoons. Like, not quite BoJack Horseman level, but pretty damn close. Like, it is dark and fucked up and depressing. A lot about me. Yeah, no, it's really messed up. Like, and if you're in a weird headspace and you think, I'm going to start The Simpsons over from the beginning because that's my comfort show, and then you do it, and you get even the first episode, the first Christmas episode is already depressing as fuck. Homer's lost all the goddamn money because he was betting, and his whole Christmas is ruined. The kids are crying. Yeah, but he only did that after he fucked up Christmas so bad and ruined everybody's life that day and they're like, "Oh, you fucked up our life, but here's the dog." Yeah, that's how that whole episode goes down. The dog
always lived, right? It was Snowball that kept dying.
Yeah, Snowball that always died. That's why there was the first, the second, third, fourth, fifth.
Poor Snowball.
But it was literally like that's the Mark got the mom tattoo, and there was the whole discussion about Pearlie marking the body where she beat him. That's back when Homer used to choke him so bad, like they would actually like almost turn his face colors, and you could see him like actually choking in the animation, which they
Yeah.
softened in season 2 to make the choking scenes more humorous and less frightening. But the choking scenes in season 1 felt real, and I'm like way more real than I remember them feeling when I was a kid.
You remember when Bart sold his soul?
Okay.
That was kind of funny.
That was a great episode.
Some say that
Stop
the soul was
messing with
symbolism. He's
Stop
like,
messing with the devil.
Yeah. And I think by the time, South Park came out, ever since then, now I can equate most of my life things to just directly to South Park.
We still watch South Park all the time. Like
I get shit for it.
I don't know what happened to it. They had a big, huge deal to make new episodes, and then have they made any new episodes?
Yeah, they just had a season.
What is it, 26? The last season's 26?
I lost count.
So it's a little confusing because what they did, one season was nothing but specials, and that's when we got all the COVID specials. Then they did nothing until the Streaming Wars duo movie, movie length. But there's 2 Streaming Wars, and then after that, just this year, the new seasons came back. So the deal they made was so huge. It's guaranteeing a minimum of another. I think it's at least 3 more seasons, a couple more movies because they're actually going to go back and make some more movies, and at least 2 or 3 more video games. And they actually bought the Casa Bonita restaurant with some of this money in Colorado.
I heard that. I want to go so bad. And then you can't tip. There's no tipping or something.
Yeah,
so.
That's the new thing. So I was there before they closed it down because I was the last group of travelers, I think, in the world before COVID shut us all down. That's how I got COVID.
Does it really have everything they say it does?
And more.
I want to go.
What you see on the cartoon is only a fraction of the size of this building. And it's going to be more different now because when I went, it was pre them buying it, pre-COVID, or on the cusp of COVID. So they've already made a lot of renovations and a lot of changes. But back then, there were little South Park dolls hidden in different places that you could spot. But it wasn't really attached to South Park at all.
That's awesome.
But now it is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I gotta go.
James.
I gotta go. I'm watching the 6-year-old again, and we've watched so much SpongeBob this weekend. It is just put it on the Paramount Network.
I've never seen SpongeBob.
Hit the streaming and just leave it on there.
Fun fact, I can do his voice uncannily well, including singing in his voice. I don't know why. I'm not going to do it right now. Jesus,
you can't
I'm not high enough right
like
now.
that and then not go through with it.
Hello, Patrick.
Is that how you met your wife?
No, it's not. That's a whole other story.
Okay.
Nice.
But
I'm going to go too.
All right. It's me and you, Jenny.
It's been fun.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
See you 2 later. No problem. Anytime.
Bye.
See you guys later.
Bye.
Have a good night, guys.
You too.
Uncle Micro, peace out.
So it's Jenny and me for a whole another hour.
And so we said good night.
Good night. How are you feeling today?
I am okay. I am alive.
Don't you love it? That's the best thing you can think of to say is, "Hey, how are you today?" And you I feel like I go to give this genuine response, and then I cycle through all the things going on in my head, and I'm like, "I'm alive." Yep, that's the best thing I got today.
I was told whenever I had just got my first job that nobody actually cares how I am doing, so give a couple word answer and move on. And then sometimes it's just generally the best thing I can say is I'm alive and I got to play with blocks all day with my son.
I remember that too, though, when I was growing up. You get your first job, you think people are genuinely interested in you, so you give them a real answer, and they're just like, yeah, I don't care about any of that. And then you're heartbroken because you think that someone genuinely cares is reaching out to you, and it's confusing.
Well, it didn't surprise me because no one outside of my family circle really did, because I was the one kid in my school that got made fun of a lot whenever I was younger. So it just didn't surprise me, and I just moved on with what I was doing that day. But to find out as an adult, it doesn't change until you find the right group of people.
Yeah. If I'm going to stop, I think because of growing up with that when I was young, I think if I take the time to ask someone how they are, how their day is, I push them because I want a real answer. I want them to know that I am actually legitimately interested, and I'm not just someone doing it. They call it a social nicety. But what's nice about asking someone a question that you don't want the fucking answer to? That doesn't seem nice to me.
It doesn't. And the thing is, there's a difference between being nice and being kind.
There is.
Nice is you have that social expectation of something good happening, and then you just have a lot of smoke. Being kind is they give you what the social expectation is, but you don't always get the all compliments and whatever. Sometimes they're just like, yeah, we got this, but they're all the words don't always come out kind, but it still gets done.
Right. It's just a confusing term between, nice. I don't know. That's a weird word to me, nice.
Yeah.
A lot of things are nice. The weather can be nice and pleasant, but I don't want to have a meaningful conversation with the weather.
No.
It's confusing. Obviously, I'm neurodivergent as fuck. That's something we all talk about our neurodivergence. And I think it's even harder for people like me to really get what the fuck I'm supposed to do, because if you teach me that when someone asks me how I'm doing, I'm supposed to answer them, and then someone else teaches me that no one really cares, that leaves me in a state of confusion, like that I don't know, and now I'm self-conscious and didn't know I needed to be.
Yeah, humaning is hard because they'll teach you one thing and then you'll move to a totally different set of circumstances, like at school compared to on your job, or like from school, job, or home. And there's totally different expectations in each spot. And when you're neurodivergent, none of it makes sense because they'll say one thing and do something totally different. Or you're given a list of things that's supposed to be your job, and then it turns around and you have another person's list on top of it that you're not even trained for.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. It's like we're constantly being given pieces of this puzzle, and we're desperately trying to put it together, but all we're actually getting are the same pieces over and over and over, and nothing to complete the puzzle. And then as soon as we think we've got it, that's it. We're either missing the pieces or we're getting 50 the same, and we can just never complete it. And then more people are showing up, taking puzzle pieces off the board.
Yeah. It's those weird grab bags, but you're only getting half the set.
So much, man. Matthew, our lovely co-creator, co-everything of the network, has just bestowed upon me the gift of life. And I just want to say thank you, Matt.
That is
I needed some. We are not sponsored by Mountain Dew. I just need some Mountain Dew, man.
But they make Mountain Dew hot dogs, and now I'm so confused.
Man, I don't know how I feel about that, because let's be honest. I don't even like other flavors of Mountain Dew. I don't think I want anything else flavored like Mountain Dew, because it's still not going to taste like Mountain Dew. It's going to taste, at best, like I dipped a hot dog in Mountain Dew. And I've done that, and it's not as pleasant as it sounds.
But people also cook potatoes in Mountain Dew now, just regular flavored Mountain Dew. And I'm like, everything's confusing that people are doing. Why are you putting random flavors of soda?
Listen, that's something I want to do in the privacy of my own home when I'm stoned as fuck and think I'm inventing some new food that only I know about. You're taking my stoner ingenuity away from me by designing all these foods out in the market, and it hurts my feelings.
Well, the potato thing wasn't from Marcus. I actually found it on a YouTube video that I'd been watching. Kent Collins or Kent Rollins or something.
Okay.
He cooks on a ranch and stuff, and he's just teaches old home cooking.
That's cool as shit, man.
Oh yeah.
Michelle's really good at that. I've watched her do a lot of that. Just a campfire. That's it. We got a campfire, and she's figuring shit out. She's making foil pockets out of shit. She's doing all this stuff. I don't know how she does it, but I feel like I eat just as well as I do at home, but on a campfire with a lot of the old shit and some new age, slight new age ingenuity. But blows my mind to watch people do that, man.
Yeah, and Michelle keeps on getting cooler and cooler the more I learn about her.
She learned about these things one time when it was just her and I camping. They were called hobo pouches or something like that. You create the pouch with the foil, but you line it with biscuit stuff, and you actually cook. I think it was a biscuit. She'll tell me later if it wasn't. So you've got the bread base around it, and then you put all your filling inside, a little bit of I think there was a little bit of chicken broth to kind of give it kind of a soupy feel a little bit, so it'd soak into the bread. But it had like meat in it. You could put cheese, vegetables, and she just come up with this shit out of nowhere. I guess she heard about it somewhere, and she's like, "I'm gonna see if I can do it." One of the most delicious things I've ever eaten in my fucking life. So her and I, just us, 5,000 raccoons coming out of the woods trying to steal our shit, our tent, and of course, when I go camping, usually Michelle or the kids want electricity, so I just go ahead and bring out the projector and the screen with us, like one of my little travel screens, so we can watch movies in the woods. So just her and I watching some movies in the woods. I think it was Goonies, seeing our hobo pouches and hanging out with the raccoons. It was a nice night. But those hobo pouches, man, they came in clutch.
Oh yeah.
And cast iron. You got to have cast iron when you camp too. Apparently, she taught me all about that too.
It's the best way to keep everything on an even keel when you're trying to cook.
Yep, she is the fucking queen of that shit. It's so cool to watch, man.
I have no doubt. I'm even more curious, and now I want a recipe.
She'll give it to you, man. Like she'll totally give it to you. She comes up with shit all the time. Like she experiments with food. Like she's a stoner too, so some of it's stoner, cooking ingenuity. But because she actually knows how to cook so well, like she will just be like, "Hey, I saw this or I read about this and I liked it, but I'd do it this way. Do you mind if I go buy some? No, why would I mind? You're going to feed me." And she will go and create the most amazing shit. And sometimes, Brooklyn will help her or Matt will help her, but like, there has never been a single failed experiment. One was a little questionable when she tried this crock pot experiment, and it all looked like it was all the color of puce. If you guys don't know what puce is, it's a very muted pink and it's very generic as shit. Everything looked that color. I was a little hesitant because of the coloring and the texture, but it ended up being super delicious. She never wants to make it again because of the color and texture, but like the actual flavors on it were all there. It looked odd, but like she knocks it out of the park, dude.
Lately we've just been experimenting. My cooking teacher died before I could get really taught well. It wasn't her fault. So I've just been watching a lot of cooking shows on TV to learn because my mother-in-law, her cooking skills are like Hamburger Helper and mac and cheese type of thing. So she can make great chicken and dumplings, but it's all like nothing from scratch. So I'm decided I was going to get better. So now we went from like a bunch of cooking shows since we have better skills than we did when we were teenagers. Now we're just looking up random recipes on the internet and seeing what we can do. Right. And I'm nowhere near as good as Michelle, but I'm getting better, which is my goal. Better.
It's cool. Like sometimes Brooklyn will see stuff on TikTok and it looks good, but they didn't include a recipe, or they only show you like a part of the recipe. And then
that TikTok spaghetti turned out really good. I would have never thought about having Alfredo noodles with spaghetti sauce on top.
Yeah. So one of the problems with these videos that we found is they skip steps. They do not often show you all the steps with the recipes. They'll leave a couple things out. They just don't tell anybody. So if you make a lot of them exactly how they tell you to, even if they give you enough information to cook them, it'll almost never turn out like the video because they're missing steps. So one of the things they like to do, Brooklyn will find it, online, or sometimes Matt will see it, and be like, "Hey, Michelle, I want this. Mom, I want this." And they'll actually sit down and deconstruct. Like Michelle will watch the video and they'll sit down and deconstruct it, and she'll be like, "Okay, they didn't tell you this, but I'm pretty sure they did this at this point, which is why that looked like this, and why this tastes like this. When the version we just made with the limited information you gave me turned out like this." And then she'll go back through and remake it, and it'll look exactly and taste exactly whatever like the video. But she's learned that they've got to figure out what these extra steps they don't show you are. So it's confusing if you want to learn how to cook from TikTok, unless they really, really include everything. And I don't know if it's for time that they don't sometimes or what. Like,
probably for time, and some of it just for whatever. Because some people have been. It's like 5-minute crafts is well known for saying if you cook it this way, it'll turn out this way. And please excuse the dogs. I don't have a choice.
They're dogs, man.
But then somebody will turn around and try to make it and doing exactly as they did, and it'll look nothing and taste nothing like they said it would.
Yeah.
So
it's missing steps is what I found out from Michelle.
That's why I do, if it's cooking videos, I either do Facebook or I look it up on YouTube, because I'm more likely to get the actual everything you're supposed to do. And some of it, I have to change things afterwards because I'm like, that did not taste right or whatever. And then I'll adjust it and everybody likes it better.
Yeah, and it's cool to do that. Like I used to be really big in cooking when I was young. I still am convinced that I have the best lasagna recipe in the world, but that's one of the few prides. But pasta, like more of the Sicilian side than the Italian side. But like that's something that I still know how to do. Like to this day, like my eyes closed. We have a family recipe, we pass it down, and it's the next generation's job to figure out how to improve because no recipe is ever truly done in a family. Like it's always supposed to grow and evolve, and every generation's supposed to kind of make it their own. And like
There's
my mom said, the family took that very seriously. So there's some things that I learned growing up that I've then, changed, and I'm about, very soon here going to be teaching the kids about. And but in Michelle's family, they cook things the same way, but there's always family traditions where everything is supposed to be cooked the same way. And it's really cool because one of them will be like Michelle or Brooke will be like, "Hey, let's make this. We haven't had this for a while." And like 5 seconds later, now it's a conversation because Grandma's on the phone. So you've got Brooklyn, Michelle,
Mhm.
and Grandma just all on the phone talking about how to make this one dish and what to substitute, what to this. Like they have a whole conversation and meal plan, just phone call, and sitting there and watching it, you're like, that's 3 generations of women just planning how to cook this meal and what to. It's mind blowing. It seems like a totally normal thing that people would experience, but if you don't know as much about cooking or you're just kind of on the outside of the
Mhm.
conversation, it's interesting and it's cool to see how like a family
Mhm.
interacts when it comes to food. It's really cool. It's like you're telling a story with the recipe is basically what you're doing because you can't just talk about the ingredients. You have to talk about the different times involved when you ate that meal and who was there at the table that day. Like it becomes this like storytelling experience when all they called for was a recipe, and it's so cool.
Mhm. That's sort of what Cassie and I are doing. We've decided with the next poetry book, it's going to be a mix of poetry, her art, and then recipes that we found. And we're like, we can change this and make it taste better. And then we're trying to perfect those recipes. And then I'm going to put down some of the experiences we had and what we did with the
Yeah,
recipe. And
like little
now that we
essays kind of a
perfected
thing.
it, this is now our recipe.
I love that. That is so cool. That's an awesome project, man.
Oh,
I
yeah.
once included a recipe in a book. The
That rock.
original version of Silence is Crimson, the original version when it was the mime, I separated it into part one, what back in the 80s when
Mhm.
things were happening, part two, and then part three, which was modern times. The original part two was only a recipe for yellow cake with chocolate icing because there's a part in the book in the 80s and then later on where the creature mentioned specifically yellow cake with chocolate icing. And that was that's my mother's recipe for yellow cake with chocolate icing. I took it out
That's
eventually, like remove that part from the book, but like that, it was just a weird random thing I did.
that would be a great recipe to get. I just haven't found the book yet.
It's not for sale anymore, and that,
I
that
know.
version of it hasn't been for sale, and it turned. I don't even think I have a version of it. I'll look. If I do, you can have it. I'll totally send it to you
Okay.
if I
Yeah,
still have it somewhere.
that would rock.
Because there's
Because
multiple
I,
versions. Like there's the version that came out originally with Master Law Fantasy Games. When that didn't quite work out, I went off on my own. I self-published, and that has a completely different cover. Same book, better editing. Um, I think the recipe might still be in that. I can't remember, but yeah, all different cover. And then I went with another company that was supposed to do a re-release that failed after several years, which is how I got with Patty and Faycore. And then the version that has a lot more information in it
uh
is that Sounds and Crimson. That was the version of the book that I always really wanted to put out, sans the recipe, which I kind of wish I kept in because it was a part of it. But like some changes had to be made.
Oh yeah, and I love the book, and I love the last book I received. It smells like Dad's office area, which is
My
not an
apologies.
insult. I promise. It's not
My
an insult.
apologies.
It's appreciative because I miss Dad's office area. I miss talking about random stuff with my dad while he's putting in notes in the computer.
Yeah.
And then she borrows it before I get to like read the physical copy, but I don't mind because yeah, she loves it. She loved
I had
the
that book
one with the
sealed in the
tag
box.
and the story the most so far.
That book was sealed in a box. Nowhere near my office area. Nowhere near it. It got
Yeah.
moved around several times. The box finally came down here, steel completely sealed, inside a coffee table, and it with the door closed and everything. And there it sat until they opened the box, and they were supposed to send the books and everything out like a couple weeks before they did. I kept forgetting it in the car, and then it ended up in the car with the box. And then, yeah, that's what happened. That's why it smells like my office.
But
Which
yeah,
at
this I
home
don't
is the
do think
smell
I
of
am
Mountain
complaining.
Dew. It's like Mountain Dew, weed, cigarettes, and desperation. I would say is probably what that smells.
Yeah, but that's like my childhood, for lack of better.
Mine
Because when
too.
he was home, yeah, that's what it generally smelled like. And then it, yeah, it's just all lost now. But
Yeah,
not the book, but what that was.
yeah, yeah. The feeling.
Yeah, that happens when people die and you move like 800 miles, and then the house gets where you lived gets turned into apartments.
I think that the family house that I write so much about, it's definitely still standing because I drive by it to torment myself when I'm in town a lot. But like I didn't move that far away. Like now is the furthest way I've ever like permanently lived from home, from Dayton or Riverside. I'm in Middletown. It's like a 30-minute drive back, so it's not that bad. But like my original family home's still there. The home we moved to, my mom still lives in. So I haven't had to experience that, but that would really suck because I know what it's like to see a lot of the other buildings that grew up in Riverside. I used a lot of the old buildings where they used to be instead of the newer ones in the
Mhm.
books and the writing. And I remember like again when you're near your hometown your whole life, you literally have to watch it change. You have to watch your town die and regrow like 20,000
Mhm.
times in your lifetime. And it's hard, man, because all your memories, if you don't write them down, they're gone because you might think you
Oh
remember
yeah.
them, but you can't just go to that place and relive the memory. So I tried really hard. Anytime I ever found out some big thing from my childhood is going to get torn down, I try and go back there and like just sit in the space for a little bit and then write a story that includes it. So I'll always remember like how that place made me feel and the stories behind it. Because if I leave triggers to my memory, it'll trigger my eidetic memory because of
Mhm.
the brain damage. So I leave these little hints of it, which is basically the journal of my life and all my writing. And all of those contain key phrases that will trigger memory dumps. So it's
Yeah.
weird.
That's actually what I was explaining to my friend about your writing. I was telling her that there are parts of his life mixed in as pieces of the story. But in order to find out which those parts are, you either have to know him very well or have asked.
Yeah.
But
I'm one of those
recently,
weird people too that will just tell you everything's in.
yeah, I don't expect you to tell me everything. It's just one of those things I picked up. It's like I was telling mom that they're make sure you read it, even though it's like brand new and put in the book, and you think you know it. And she's like, "Yeah, I noticed there was a very big difference between was holding up the anthology compared to the one you wrote that was just your stories. There are
Yep.
differences, and she
Hmm.
was naming the differences."
Yep. Those differences were added in there for very specific reasons. Because
Mhm.
what I found that I remembered about my childhood is sometimes different than what actually happened. Like it was the case with a lot of
Mhm.
people. And after I wrote some of those initial stories and included things that I remembered, there were actually other things later that someone else, either a childhood friend, a family member, Michelle, or someone would remind me about that was just as important that I hadn't included. So what I thought to do with it when we recollected them was to go back and add that additional content. That's why there's differences in the
Mhm.
stories because they were included from other people's perspectives to fill it out, I guess. So I would also now remember their parts of the story on top of my own because like, that's how my brain works.
Oh yeah.
I write because I hope people will read it, but mostly I write so I can remember my life. As my brain damage gets worse over time, I'm eventually not going to remember any of it. But if I've got these reminders, I'll always be able to go back, and that's the only way I'm ever going to reread my own work. Because let's be honest, once
Oh
it's
yeah.
out there in the world, it's out there.
Yeah, I remember you saying that when we first started talking. It's like your writing's out there in the world, but it doesn't seem like it's part of anything. And I'm like, but it's part of a lot. It's a lot of
Yeah.
important things. There's a whole world there that people should read.
I used to have this thing in my life for a long time, and it's definitely a mental health thing where I was a journaler. I stopped being a journal years ago, but I always kept a journal. I'm talking from the age of like 5 or 6 until probably my early 20s. I just always had journals. And I had this ritual where I would fill up a journal with a giant chunk of my life, the good, the bad, the everything. I would wait until I filled the last page and then I would take a week and just blow off the world. Sometimes I'd just go on a vacation or I would just leave. Or if I was super young, I would find some time just away from everybody whenever I could to just reread the whole thing for the span of a week. And I always made it 7 days. So sometimes I'd get through the journal like a couple times to just reflect on all these moments. I take a deep breath and I decide these are all the things I learned. This is the new person I'm going to be after all these events. And I would sit and I'd think about that for a couple days. And then as soon as an appropriate time would come along, I would do a campfire. And I'd invite people over to campfire when I was young. It was with my family or whatever. And I'd throw it in. And I'd sit there and I would not leave that fire until I watched that entire journal burn to nothing but ashes. And I always use like notebooks and things that would burn easily, so it wasn't so hard to, I didn't want to wait 12 hours for a damn fire to consume my journal. And I just did this frequently, dozens upon dozens of journals just completely destroyed, because every version of that journal helped me become a different person. And I didn't want to be that person anymore. And I knew the way to move on was to just burn it all. I'd have the memories, but only if they got triggered by something. So I lived that chunk of my life just rewriting my own life, my own history, every journal. Sometimes I'd fill a journal in the period of a couple months. There was one time where it took me 2.5 years to fill one. So there was never any like specific time frame that I did it. It's just, that was how I dealt, I think, with growing up and learning lessons and like altering myself based on the good and bad things. And I think that's what I do now. I think I do it now with fiction. But because I include so much realism in it, I don't burn things anymore because I'm not going to burn my computer. So what I do is I write it and I don't read it again. It's out there. That was part of my life. It's out there. Now with Salads Crimson, it's different because I'm pretty far into the sequel right now, and of course I got to go back to make more notes and make sure I didn't lose a thread to something or I've moved part of a miniature plot along. But that's it. I don't go back and read any of my shorts, and I will listen to them. However, if like Chilling Tales or someone else like Cryopod Tapes, Nicolet's Darker Stories, all those, if somebody picks one up, I get excited to experience my whole story again through someone performing it. And that's the only way I'll experience something I've written twice. It's got to be a novel I'm writing a sequel to, or someone has to have picked it up. Or now, I guess, a collection, because I get a chance to, revisit and add. But I'm just like that. I'm like that way with film, too. When I've been in movies in the past, I've only ever watched them if someone else grabbed it and wanted to watch it with me. Like, made a point about it, I would do it. I never have once, on my own, just sat for any reason and watched anything I've ever made.
I can understand that.
Music was the only difference, because I had to listen to the same song a million times after we recorded it, because we had to do shows. I had to play that song and listen to it like every night sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So like that was because it's a different artistic process. Yeah. Everything else, man, it's either burned or I just never look at it again. And it's not because I think it's bad or anything. It's just that was what I wrote. It was very personal to me, and I found a way to share it with everyone and in ways that you would never guess. And that's just what I do, I think, for my mental health more than anything. I think not writing for as much as I've not been writing. Like the last time I wrote a ton was during Nano. That was last November. And this whole year, man, I've written very little. And I think that's a big part of why my mental health dipped it so bad. I mean, obviously we were living in hotels and all this insanity, but not having that connection to writing to bring up the past or find ways to handle the present through different characters and situations, I realized during this time that was my number one coping mechanism. And it took me until just like a week or two ago to really realize how much I rely on writing. Unless haunt season's going on, of course, but we're off season for the actual acting part. So like literally the only thing I have is podcasting and writing. Podcasting, we're having conversations like we are now. I'm dealing with things. We talk about all kinds of things. But I'm not really so much dealing with me as a person and like my needs or thoughts or depressions or anxieties. I'm not thinking about them. I'm just doing a show with people I love, and we're having a fucking grand old time about it. So I've
been enjoying them.
That's the therapeutic part, the fun part of therapy, where you're just saying "fuck you, world," and you're making cool things with cool people. But when you sit down and do something personal with yourself, like writing or drawing, painting, like anything that's like a solitary thing, you have to stare yourself in the face the whole time. Because even if you're not writing about yourself or writing about someone you love, what you do as a writer is you put elements of everything around you. And most writers I talk to don't even realize that they've even written themselves or a part of themselves or a person they know or a place into their stories. It just happens so organically they don't even notice it. So noticing it and doing it on purpose is a really also very weird process, I've been told.
I am purposely putting stories that I was told by my mom, stories from my sister, stories that I've experienced, stories from my mother-in-law. I'm putting all these purposely in these two books I am trying to write. And the poetry, well, it's obvious. It is straight out and out what the thing I'm writing is. Thoughts I've had about.
I love your poetry, by the way.
Thank you.
By the way, you just released a book. Throw that out there because you need to tell people need to be coming to get this shit.
State of Mind is my poetry book. It's about poetry I've written from when I was a teenager, and a lot of poetry randomly from being a postpartum mom and trying to get through the pandemic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And a few family recipes thrown in, and a beautiful picture by my sister because of me being a fairy since I was a little girl, and I found out I can still be a fairy and I can be part of the Fae Court, and the Fae Court has my fairy book, so it's not all about fairies, but either way.
And I'm your resident redcap.
Yes. Oh, dude. I so hope this has nothing to do with anything. I so hope NJ
that's
Sullivan,
the point of this show. The point of this show is that nothing has to do with anything. So please continue.
NJ Sullivan from Lantern Audio Works did this awesome Redcap story, and I'm hoping at some point he can finish it and continue with the story. But I totally understand why right now everything is sort of at a standstill, and I just will continue supporting them and hopefully everybody else will continue listening to their stuff until she can heal and get better. But it's very hard to heal and get better after a stroke. But either way, sooner or later stuff will come out. Until then, please re-listen, rewatch, share with the books they already have out.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We'll throw that in the links too. Remind me, like when the video, the YouTube version comes up, we should go back and edit that and toss that in there.
Oh yeah. I'm all for everything Lantern Audio Works. Their news broadcasts are amazing. But dude, I've went full circle from poet to I don't know where I was going other than there was a video that this is linked to what we were talking about earlier. There's this guy that drives through towns and just records it on his phone. And they had did a drive-through tour on his phone or whatever, or his camera of Saudi Daisy, where I am from. And I had saw how much had changed from when I had lived there in 2002 to now. Yeah. And it was like, wow.
It's a shock, man. It's weird because, like, so when I'm living in it, I'm watching the things being torn down, but it's all happening so incrementally throughout time that it's hard to notice like how different the city is. And then one day you just take a look around and you're I get all my memory dumps and I'm like, nothing is where it used to be. I don't recognize the town I grew up in anymore. When the fuck did that actually happen? Like, what moment can you pinpoint that says this is no longer the town I grew up in? Is it the dime drugstore down the street? We had Bob's Pharmacy was ours. That was our local pharmacy. Everybody in the neighborhood went to Bob. You wanted comics? Bob had comics. You wanted Hit Parrot or magazine or Rolling Stone? He had it. You wanted to go camping? You could probably get a tent from Bob. You knew a guy. So like, it was Bob's fucking pharmacy, man. And like that was one of the first things that I remember, like from my childhood. Just one day it was there, and then Bob died, and then the next day the shop was empty. 4 years later, I ended up jamming with the band for 6 months. The first time I ever met these guys to met up to jam with them was fucking in Bob's Pharmacy. And it was so weird. And that was the moment that I really thought to myself, like, this was Bob's. That was the comic rack over there. I stood here and read this specific issue of Spider-Man. Like, like all these memories. Like the first Hit Parrot or magazine I ever saw that had Metallica on the cover was right over there. I had my first kiss right over there by the original Super Mario Brothers fucking arcade machine, right over by the front window that's not there. And I'm doing I think back then it was a Weezer cover song. And I'm sitting here singing a Weezer song, and I'm just looking around this whole fucking hollowed out Bob's Pharmacy like, this is it, man. That's that moment. And that was almost 20 years ago. No, that's about 15 years ago. And it's even more like little things, like the laundromat's gone, like the neighborhood laundromat. We didn't have a Dairy Queen. We had a Dairy King. It's gone. And it's all these weird little things that every town has, like that every like really small town has, that makes it what it is. That makes it kind of like where everybody else lives, but we got a Dairy King instead of a Dairy Queen. Like it's all these little differences with neighborhoods and small towns that like it's just so hard to explain, man. It's there and then it's not.
Dad, I totally understand. I've walked down Newton, like downtown where I am, and so many stores are closed.
Yeah.
Nothing. They're just sitting there. You got the historic fronts on them, but there's nothing there anymore.
Yep, they're just abandoned buildings that they're not legally allowed to tear down, but they don't want anybody else to do anything with it either, so they just sit.
And it's sad and depressing.
Yeah. Especially since here, chunks of them still have all their old original the original products like displayed in the window as if the store could magically open any moment now. But no one's been in it for 20 years. And I love like the antique stores especially because we have one. It's still in the Valley Platte. You drive down there and you go by and it's got like an old original vanity from like the 50s that has the daybed attached to it and everything. And it's so gorgeously displayed in this window. There's a kayak place across the street, like old school kayaks. And there's like 5 or 6 these little shops in like this little cluster on both sides of this little part of the street. And they've been abandoned for as long as I can remember. Some of them since before I was born, they were abandoned. They just got frozen in time. And they're still there.
You see those as you drive down the road, not in like the middle of town, but you'll see the places. Everything's still displayed, but everything's closed.
Yeah. And I think the hardest part I have about all this is that where I live, we're a suburb of Dayton, Ohio, and that is one of the biggest cities in Ohio. Like, I'm close to Cincy, I'm close to Columbus. A little bit later on, I'll eventually get down to Cleveland, But like Cincy and Columbus, it's an hour in either direction. We're a huge city. We have all these big cities, and Dayton is a huge fucking city. But I'm in this suburb called Riverside, and it's fucking tiny, and half of it is Wright Patterson Air Force Base. So it's a military town, but it's also a small town. But it's also, they decided they wanted to be their own city at some point in time, but they're still the size of a small town. And they try to bring in these modern conveniences, and you're like, dude, I could have just drove 10 minutes down the street and had that. You didn't need to tear all this shit down to build another Starbucks or whatever it is you're trying to do. Like, there's another new one everybody's complaining about lately. I can't remember what it was. But, like, it's so weird, man.
It threw me off. I've read this Han Holzer book, The Euphonauts, like 2 or 3 times just for the hell of it, because I like it. And but in chapter 4, he talks about stuff that had happened at that base, and then it hit me. It's the same place Raz was talking about.
Yeah,
and
I can say all kinds of shit about that place.
I have no doubt. You probably know more than he did, and he did a lot of research and only put a tiny bit in his books.
I've literally I've lived here. Even if I've gone, like, I'm in Middletown right now. That's like I said, I'm in Dayton all the time, and if I'm in Dayton, I'm probably gonna be in Riverside that day too because I can't not go home. And from where the haunt is in Dayton, if you go down the road about 2 minutes, you're back in Riverside. Like, that's how close the haunt even is to my hometown. It's like I'm always over there. And yeah, Wright Pat's an odd place because there's many cities around here that all border it. Riverside, Dayton, Beaver Creek, and Fairborn are just like all around. Like, so you can drive for like 10, 15 minutes and through different pathways to every one of these little cities. We all feel so separate from each other because we're all like very different. Like the whole vibes of the towns are all so different. But the base is still the one common edge of it. So pretty much all these cities are divided. You have your base half the city and the rest of the city. You go around over into Beaver Creek, and that's the richer area. You go around the circle into Fairborn, and you start getting more run down. Even Heber Heights is part of it, and it's nice now. And Riverside's always just kind of falling behind the pack. Is always tied in the struggle and figure shit out. But there's
just
been
like
big changes
our Riverside.
Something that really dawned on me when we picked Del. Actually, after we dropped Del off, Michelle and I went through Centralia, Pennsylvania, because it was 14 quick. It cut 14
you
minutes
get
off our trip to
pictures?
drive through Centralia. No, we didn't for a reason because we're going to go back and actually do an exploration.
Okay.
Got some coal and some other cool shit from there, but
Oh, awesome.
I did everything legally though, because I bought the coal actually in the town over called Ashland, where it's connected to the same mines, the same coal. So I actually legally bought because I didn't want to just steal something from somewhere. It just seemed weird to disturb shit. But
Oh yeah,
I did get some earth. Like I had a tube that was empty, so I scooped some earth into it to have a. That's what I like to do when I go places. I like to have some physical thing that I can tactile that I can remember. And so in this case, there's just like some topsoil and some gravel. I just put it in a tube, and that's going to be my new memory of going to Centralia the first time. But like it was quicker, so we went through there. But we came out of Centralia, we went back through Ashland, and we hit Riverside. And I looked at Michelle and I was like, "Hey, it's Riverside." And she looks at me. It makes the most obvious comment to me that for some reason that just never hit my brain because I think of Riverside, Ohio, and I know Riverside, California. And logically, I know that every fucking state has probably multiple Riversides. It just never hit me that way. And so I'm looking at this little mining town right by the river, and I'm like, holy shit, dude. Like, imagine if like Riverside had this like gate that I could go into and pop out in any other riverside anywhere else in the world that had a riverside.
I wrote a story like that whenever I was in high school. Wherever there's a Madisonville, there was a door to it.
Nice. I love that concept, dude. I don't know why. And logically, I know that Riverside is a very popular name for any town or city next to a river. It's obvious.
Yeah.
But it just never hit the logical part of my brain where I was like, holy fuck.
And whenever I said the wrong Dayton, there's nothing wrong with your Dayton. It's just my grandma's not there. She's in our Dayton.
Right.
That sort of thing.
That's another one. Like
that level.
We were driving, and right after I thought about that, the whole way home, I'm like, oh my God, at one point in time when Dell was in the car, we stopped in Middletown, and I think it was Middletown, Connecticut. And I'm like, holy fuck, I live in Middletown right now. Wrong state. Shit. Like, but you really start thinking you don't think about it until road trips. Like when you're seeing the signs go by, like, holy shit, there's like 50,000. I lived in that city. Hey, I got friends over there just in another state. But it's weird to make that connection on road trips when you know logically this is true, but physically seeing it in front of in your face in the moment, it clicks to this different part of your brain where it's real now. So like, holy shit.
Did you ever go to Torrington?
Torrington what?
Connecticut.
I cannot tell you all the places we just went through because we literally drove right to the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut.
Okay.
From Detroit because we had to get her in Detroit and drive all the way there. It was fun though. It was really cool, man.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But like it's just weird when you're on the road trip brain and you see all these cities and it just hits you, man. So now I'm thinking all this other shit about Riverside. But I think some good things came out of changing my hometown up. It's weird because like it was the base and then it was Riverside, but it was all Riverside. But your base, everybody was pretty accepting of each other back there, in the base areas. Everybody's pretty nice, respectful. You know, whoever you meet and fall in love with or become best friends with, they may not be there in 6 months or a year. And that's kind of hard because you got to let people, if you guys out there have never lived in a military town, it's really hard to be a kid in a military town when you're not military, especially. Because every girl you fall in love with, there's a good chance she's military and she's gone. Nothing you can do about it. Your new best friend, maybe it's 5 years and you're convinced they'll be there forever. And then one day they didn't have time. They're just gone. They're just not. Maybe you get a note. Maybe they say goodbye. Maybe they don't. They're just gone the next day. So you learn that there is no such thing as permanence at a very young age in a military town. But you had that side, and then you had a lot of the rest of the town, which was very closed off, very on, not really accepting of other people of any kind, period. There were a couple clan houses, and I'm being dead fucking serious about this, in the Platte that I grew up with here. I got shit. I had some family members that got shit. But the thing is, like, and I'm not going to say it's a redneck because that's not necessarily a bad term, and I don't know why people think it's a bad term. It's a way of life. Plenty of rednecks are fucking awesome and happy to be rednecks. I have plenty of family that are rednecks. I'm part redneck. So, like, that's a term that people use negatively that I don't get. But
we go as far as calling people their actual nickname is redneck. We have two in our family.
Yep, I got something like that too.
Big redneck and little redneck.
Oh yeah, but it was very closed off and very pro-Caucasian, and that was something that I never understood about humanity growing up. So not only am I learning about how nothing is permanent in life, I'm also learning that you should hate everyone that looks and thinks and is different from you. My family didn't believe any of this. Like, this was not something that was okay in my family, mind you. But that was most of what a lot of Riverside was. That wasn't, except for us groups of little pockets of families and little pocket neighborhoods who didn't think that way. But it was weird to see that, and then to go to the Bayside where all my other friends and whoever were, and see the complete opposites. You get raised in both sides of it, and it's very confusing, man. But all that stuff went away.
Confusing.
They got rid of the clan houses. They got rid of the meth labs. They got rid of the chop shops. They went through and they cleaned all that up. So that was great.
Yeah.
There's this park I write about a lot. I don't know why. Roar Park. When I was growing up, you weren't allowed to go to the park. There was broken glass everywhere, needles. Like you could just get attacked and die in this fucking park by animals or God knows what in this fucking park. And one of the first things that happened to it is I started to become like, I think I was like 19 or 20. We had been a city for a little while now, and the city finally decided, we've cleaned up all these eyesores. It's Roar Park now. And they went in there, they raised the ground, they put in new swing sets, like fancy shit. They put in new courts, new everything. And it's this tiny little neighborhood park. It's got woods, it's got everything. And for some reason, anytime I want to sit down and write about it, my brain doesn't go to my childhood. It does not go to the original version of the park. It goes to the amazing hangout spot and beautiful spot in the middle of a fucking neighborhood that shouldn't even exist there. It's like an oasis. And that's now where my brain goes. Only to the new version.
The only dangerous thing about our park currently is the little creek that goes by it. You should be watchful because we will get alligators every so often in it.
That makes sense.
So if you see something floating in the creek, don't go.
It's not a log. This is not Frogger.
No, it is. It looks friend shaped, but it's still not friend shaped because apparently down here we have a lot of people that think, "Ooh, friend shaped."
We got two other parks around here: Cloud Park and Eastwood Park. Eastwood Park's a neighborhood park still, but it's like one of the big like Metro Park neighborhood parks. So it's huge with tons of woods, like creeks and everything. And there's Cloud Park, which is like a neighborhood park for Heber Heights, which was right down the street when I was growing up. And that park, and both of those you can hang out in the water a lot. But I remember at Cloud Park, we would literally start from one end of the creek and wade through the creek throughout the entire park. We'd catch fish with our hands. We would with 2 cups. Literally, we would just go in the creek with 2 cups, and you'd sneak a cup up behind a fish, and then bring one real quick in front of it, and it would turn around and just swim right into the cup, and you had a fish, like little fish. And tadpoles, we had crawdads, we'd catch them the same way, and we'd spend hours all day just in this fucking creek, up and down the whole park, just playing in the water, insulting the shit out of each other, and catching random aquatic beings.
They do that a lot here. They'd ride till the point where they can't go any further, like the boundary line, and then they get on this little raft or whatever they made, and then they'll just float down back home and then do it again.
I remember ours had bridges too, so like when you'd go like through different sections of the park, you'd have to like float or like swim, or some of the water went up to my knee. So you're literally kind of like sitting on your butt and just using your hands to scoot down those parts of the river, so you feel like you're swimming, but you're not really fooling anyone. No. And then but you're going under all these little bridges, and people are just walking over, and it's the weirdest shit. It's weird to think about now because as an adult, I go look there. That creek looks like it's going to go to my ankle. So I know it was deeper then, but like also I was a big child, so it's not a big difference, I guess.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with how big you were. My dad's like 7'5". So therefore, I was a big child. And then you can kind of see that my kids. One is like mom shape, and one is like dad shape, like height wise. So yeah, but my mom was like 5'4.5", so it was weird height wise.
That's epic, dude. That's epic. And then I got Matt over here on my gentle giant that's like 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah, Josh is about that height. Yeah, his nickname in the army was Lurch. My dad was. So, yeah.
That's fucking guy. He was always my favorite character in Addams Family anyway. Lurch is the shit. He's the linchpin to the Addams Family.
Oh, yeah. And my kid got obsessed with that one episode in the original series where he told his mom that it was his house and they were his servants.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we watched that one about 15 million times. And
that was such a good episode, man. I remember that one, too.
Yeah, not complaining, but you know how you love something and then your kid gets obsessed with it, and then you've watched it every day for 4 months. And it's like Coraline. I love Coraline, but Dante has been obsessed with it. So we've watched it almost every day for multiple months. So yeah.
I think you have to find unique ways to shift focus into something that you haven't seen in a while that you're not quite as tired of yet. But it's hard to do with kids because sometimes they'll drop the thread onto the new thing, but sometimes no. And you don't know what you're going to get in any given moment.
We've shifted it to number blocks. Hence why the rainbow and the rainbow kisses.
Yeah.
Because number 7 is like all the colors from before, plus
awesome.
a different shade of purple. And so he knows simple like addition and subtraction. Yeah. Today we've been adding all the different ways you can do 6, 5, and 10 like constantly, and he's been doing it with like Legos.
That is
this
awesome.
And this equals 10, or this and this equals 5. And I think the only time it was annoying is when I was trying to make the potatoes and he wanted me to take them apart. And then he got mad when I said, you have to go to daddy for this. I am trying to cut the potatoes.
Potatoes are for eating.
Yeah. And yeah, we needed potato. Well, I really wanted potatoes, but he's like, no, we got to play.
That's epic, dude. I love that.
But
have you ever let them watch Little Monsters?
Little Monsters was great.
Like, my kids haven't even seen Little Monsters, and they're adults now. But like, it's exciting to me, like, to watch the reactions to kids watching Howie Mandel and Fred Savage and Little Monsters. I don't know why, because there are moments that I remember this movie. And again, I was watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but there was a couple of moments in that movie towards the end, especially, that terrified me a little bit. Like a little bit. And I think that movie is actually responsible for my early childhood fear of the monster under the bed, because that went a really dark way really quick to where they had to like saw the legs off the beds to get them on the floor. Like that shit affected me profoundly as a kid. But I watch kids today like it's a completely normal thing. And I'm like, it's interesting to see how they react like to all the different sections of that. Such an odd movie. I love it.
There's like kids books where they talk to the monster under the bed and they become friends.
It's normal. Like in today's age, it's normal to make friends with your monsters. Like that's a big thing. I found out, obviously.
It's just when I was reading Mr. Jones for the first time, I'm like, this is very familiar. I remember seeing this in a couple of things, and then you like clarified, this is what I get from this and this, and I'm like, I just find it interesting. I can just like, I love your writing because I get parts on different levels than most people do, because I'm like, ooh, you got this from this movie or this book or whatever.
And there's actually something I never told you about that I just remembered a couple days ago out of nowhere. If you go back and really look at the description of Mr. Jones, do you remember Mr. Toad?
Mm-hmm.
Like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Yeah, was it not the Weeping Willows, Wind in the Willows or something like that? So he's modeled after Mr. Toad.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I've read that book like 6 times recently.
Yeah.
I'm not.
But Mr. Toad was something I always liked as a kid.
But I'm like, this is very familiar.
But we went to Disney when I was really little, and they still had the Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. And you're basically in what looks like a car. You're driving around because you're drunk, and then you crash and you go to hell. And that's what that ride was at Disney. And it fucked me up. And I remember then I couldn't watch anything with Mr. Toad in it because it fucked my head up, thinking like, oh, he's a drunk driver. What the fuck? Do what?
Why would that's something I didn't understand. Why would you go to hell? Because it's like,
because you're evil and you drink alcohol, and that was the lesson Disney was trying to teach kids. Yeah.
I don't.
That's why that ride was discontinued many years ago and has not existed. But it became such a thing in my family. Like it affected me so badly. But it's also a very painful, jerky ride, even for a kid. And it about killed my mom and grandma because I just kept wanting to go on it. I think I made them ride it like 7 or 8 times when we went to Disney when I was a kid, because I could not comprehend what the fuck it was that was like bugging me about it. Like I'm like that if I experience something that like either like freaks me out or just makes me think, I have to experience it over and over. And I'm like this as an adult too. But like they just would feed into it. So we just kept riding
it until it clicks.
Yeah, that's the only way I can understand it. And then once it clicks, then I can dissect it and understand every aspect, but not until then.
With like
And
Martha
something
and
about Mr.
Josh,
Toad.
they don't get it, so I like show them a couple of times, and then they finally catch on. It's like, oh, this is the outcome that was supposed to happen, and yeah, that's happened recently with the Feverfew tea because it wouldn't click, and then I made it, and then I explained it, and then she's like, oh, so I try to make it as easy as possible because we got the packets.
Oh, that's even easier. Yeah. That's
so you
awesome.
can make however much you want.
Yeah.
But just like, so yeah, now she gets it, and it's working so much better now that she gets it, because now I think she's actually getting some semblance of sleep.
That's good. It's weird how the mind works, and I just somehow translated that weird experience I had with Mr. Toad and wondered what he'd look like as a horror character, a horror creature. That's something I've always thought about. So when I had to write the description for Mr. Jones, it talks about his spindly fingers and like all this stuff in the story. Mm-hmm. But that's literally what I had been envisioning since my childhood, that the horror version of Mr. Toad looked like.
I haven't wanted to connect that with Sophia because that is one of her favorite books.
Yeah.
Because I found this beautiful hardback book at a comic book shop. I have no idea why they had it. I was just grateful that they did. And now they have it on their nightstand, but they also have it audibly on Audible.
Yeah.
So, but we've seen, we own it. And but we've listened to it at least 6 times, or we've read it. And it's like, I don't want to connect that in her brain.
Yeah, don't. It's old. That's more for like older folks anyway, to catch that. But I don't think I've ever told anybody that. I've never mentioned it. I've just never mentioned it to anybody.
Enjoyed listening to the story because she plays horror games. So, like on Roblox or whatever. So it's not as scary as it can be. But they don't have this on. The lights are off in their bedroom. I can see it right there.
Oh yeah, in the woods.
But it won't. Yeah, I hope it doesn't connect until she's much older.
Yeah, I think a lot of my monsters though is really just normal shit that I saw when I was young that just affected me in fucked up ways like that in my overactive imagination, and she'll just sit with me. Then I forget for a while. Then all of a sudden a memory will trigger. There's this one weird story I want to write, but I haven't written yet. It's called Spring Cleaning. I story told it once a long time ago, like eons ago. I was obsessed with the Gremlins movies, like really big into the Gremlins movies. I saw it on HBO or Showtime, whatever it was when it first came out, because, like James was talking about, I had friends that were on the base that, they got all the channels, so I just give them blank VHS tapes and they just record shit for me all the time. And I remember seeing that, and I just loved the Gremlins so much, and I would have nightmares about the Gremlins, but it wasn't because they were scary, and it wasn't normal nightmares. It was my town, and every year around springtime, everybody in my neighborhood, it was like a couple like small neighborhoods all together, and it was this thing where we would have to go and clean out the Gremlins, because Gremlins were this like rats or mice. They would just infest our houses, and they fuck shit up around the house all the time, and sometimes they'd eat your hand if you weren't paying attention and you had it too low. Little boy down the street had his hand eaten 2 seasons ago, so that was part of my dreams. But it was literally just everybody in town getting together and saying, it's spring cleaning time. And I had this repeating dream for decades. And I just had it again like 6 or 7 days ago, the whole spring cleaning thing. So now it's like fresh in my brain that there's a period of my time that my brain believes that I spent every spring cleaning out Gremlins for my home.
I think the only movie like recently, it is The Cabin in the Woods, Joss Whedon's movie. I don't know why that is like the only movie recently, horror movie that I've seen, even though it's a comedy one, that has given me nightmares. You know how the gods come up from and under the earth and take over? I dreamt that I was up on the mountain coming down to the house, and I see it come up out of where my house is, and Cassie and Martha was still in the house. Because Sophia was with me. We hadn't had Dante yet. But Sophia was with us in the car, and we're coming off the mountain, and then we see it come up. And I'm like, how is that the only movie that actually gives me nightmares as an adult?
It's weird how the brain just grabs these little things and just turns it into something else that it's not ever supposed to be.
It's like I had this one nightmare on Robitussin right after I had Cassie.
You were robo tripping.
Yeah, and they had dropped atomic bombs on B Dice, Texas for I don't even know the reason. But I hadn't slept for a good 2 days because of the sinus infection. And finally get to sleep, and I have that nightmare, and I've only been asleep for like an hour and a half, and the baby's still asleep. She's in bed, resting fine, and I'm the one that is having like crying with a nightmare.
Yeah.
Because we just got killed by an atomic bomb.
Every now and then, like, I will wake up not because I'm terrified, but because something I've just dreamed about has affected me so profoundly. I need to make sure that everyone's alive all of a sudden. And maybe their lives weren't threatened in the dream, but it doesn't matter. It's just that panic. Like, I wake up with that panic, like everything's fucked up. I'm starting to not remember why everything's fucked up, but I still have the feeling that everything's fucked up. So I have to wake up Michelle and be like, hey, I'm sorry, I just woke you up. I need you to talk. I need some human connection for just like a minute or two to make sure things are cool, and then I can go back to sleep. And I can usually go back to sleep. But most of the time, I'm in control of my dreams. I know I have little triggers that I put in dreams and things for myself in my brain. So once I recognize I'm in one, I will sometimes push it along to see how far I can take it before I wake up. But it's the ones that those rare moments where I'm not actually in control and those things happen. You're just like, I mean, I'll shake. I'll wake up like shaking. Like, what the fuck was that?
Like
they're never like monsters or anything like that. It's always something like some profound weird event.
We had been talking about looking for houses and whatever, and recently I had this. I'm putting it in the book because it scared the hell out of me so bad. We had went house hunting, and then Martha didn't listen to me about there being this weird filling over the house. So we went to go check the house. We get there, and it's this bright, sunny place, but it feels dark. And she ignores me because something's drawing her in, and she goes in. And I'm just in there looking at my phone thinking nothing's going to happen because it's the first go inside. And then I hear the car door open. I'm just continuing reading what I was reading on my phone. And it shuts, and the car starts, and we go. And I asked her, what did she think? And it's telling me how beautiful the house was and her voice. And then next thing I know, her bloody head is dropped in my lap. And then I look at it, and it's looking at me, and then it turns its head because it's this black, weird, melting creature. And then we go straight, and it keeps accelerating, and we hit the side of a Greyhound bus.
Shit, man.
So I got up and I went down the hall. I didn't have to wake her up to find out she's alive because she snores in her sleep. She was breathing. She was snoring. She was okay. And no, I'm not making fun of her because she was snoring, because at that point I felt better because she was snoring.
Yep.
But yeah, I get the idea of having to make sure they're alive and they're okay.
Yeah, it's overwhelming all of a sudden.
Like knowing Sophia speaks to spirits, and I didn't know she was playing a pretend game, and says yeah, Daddy's in the bedroom drinking tea with me, knowing that she found out things about her grandfather's death before I did by speaking to her dead grandfather. I call Josh. I'm like, and then he answers. I'm like, oh, thank God, she's just playing a pretend game and you're having a tea party with her. He's like, you thought she was talking to me again, weren't you? I'm like, yes. But it's like those weird things that happens because
that was a normal thing in my family. If one of the kids saw someone or was with a loved one, and then we would talk about it, everybody in the family would stop what they were doing and call that relative. And chances are they had just passed. So the flukes where it wasn't true, everybody was just always in freak out mode and calling everybody like, hey, are you okay? Have you heard from this person in a while? But the kids are like that, you know.
Doppelganger ones just drive me insane.
Oh yeah.
Because I had to steadfastly lock out a lot of things out of the house at one point because of the doppelgangers.
Oh yeah. It's intense, man, how all that shit works and how your brain just gets so used to certain things. But the great thing about kids, and it's really hard to hold on to this as an adult. I've tried so hard my whole life to hang on to this, which is where Raztopia comes from and all this shit. We get conditioned so hard but ghosts aren't real, that means you're crazy, or this isn't real, or that's not real, and or this is real, and you have to believe in this now. And it changes so much that when we're kids, we don't have all that programming yet. We don't think, oh well, Bigfoot's real. We think that everything is real. We truly believe that every religion, every Santa Claus, I mean, everything in the world is real. And a lot of these things, some of them are, some of them come from history, some of them, families make real, because that's what you do in your family.
Mm-hmm.
But you live in that space where anything can happen at any given moment. And like I think this covers like my religious, my political beliefs, my belief as a human being is still to this day, I've made it. My mantra is everything is real.
Yeah.
And it's hard to hold on to, but like if you can find your own ways to hold on to it like that, and there's a million ways to do it, you start to see bullshit. When people are bullshitting you, it's easy to tell because you're so in tune with everything around you because you're willing to believe that everything can be, that it's easy to see when other people aren't.
The kids have figured out about Santa and the Easter Bunny,
Mm-hmm.
but they've also figured out that Granny's sitting in that chair for real, drinking coffee out of that horrible green avocado Tupperware cup and talking to them. No, that's real. Santa isn't, but what she's saying, her sitting there, you know what I mean? Because she's been gone since 2002. So I'm never going to tell them, no, she's not talking to us. Cassie accidentally caught on to Santa by accident, but yeah.
I had to explain Santa to a kid once. Yeah, it was a friend of mine's kid. So I'm not going to give the name because, privacy for this person is still a kid, technically. So they discovered that my friends were, Santa Claus. They were pretending the whole time. And this was like a good 3 or 4 years before this kid felt comfortable telling their parents they knew. They came to me first. I'm Uncle Raz to many, many children out there. And they was like, Raz, what do I do? I'm like, Uncle Raz, like, I know that this is a thing. And I stopped. And I looked at this kid. I was like, can I ask you a question? They're like, what? Was it real to you? Well, yeah, because I thought this. And I said, don't worry about what you thought was the case. Did Santa feel real to you? Yeah. Why? Well, because mom and dad, there you go. Mom and dad made it real to you, which means it is real, which means that's a moment that these are moments that you're never going to forget, that, showed you like how much your parents were there for you, even if they couldn't afford much for Christmas, or maybe Santa was the only one that actually gave you a good gift because that's all they could afford. But they never addressed it from mom and from dad because they wanted to share this magic to you, and this magic that was their way of getting back in touch with magic in the world again. So in that respect, Santa's fucking real. And after this conversation, the kid just kind of nodded at me and then still refused to tell his parents. But when he or she finally told their parents, it was this big sit down. And then I got a call like the next day, like, did you tell my kid like years ago that Santa wasn't real? I was like, no, I didn't. I affirmed that it was real and explained why. And they said, well, thank you. And I thought it was sarcastic and they were about to get pissed off at me until they repeated back to me verbatim what I had told their kid, years in the past about the situation. They said, you just literally made this holiday that you don't even believe in so much more enjoyable for us and so much more of a memory. And it's tough to think that like there's all these kids out there that get so upset and hurt when they find out that they feel lied to. Like a lot of kids feel lied to when they find out about these things. So, like, I think it's important for parents, like, to have that conversation at a certain point when the kids start to suspect, or they just make it a part of what their tradition is.
I realized Santa wasn't real when Santa finally showed up at the house in the middle of the night, and he had a trucker stand. And I realized that, but I didn't say that I realized that. I ran up and I gave him a hug because I was so happy to see him. He is finally home after being on the road for 2 months. Just in time for Christmas. But Santa came, but it was also Daddy. Daddy came home. So that was like my favorite time I ever saw Santa. And I was okay that Santa wasn't real, but I was also happy. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. It makes total sense. The moment when I realized for sure, it was in the late 80s. I was still single digits when I found out. Like when I really got it, because I'm weird. I was a weird kid. I'm a weird adult. When we
So
had this
am I.
very, hell yeah, we had this really close family friend named Barry. He was, my dad knew him growing up. Like everybody knew Barry in town, knew Barry. Barry was also a local horror host,
Mhm.
named Mr. Creep, and he's actually a big part of some things there. Right, we have a mural of him painted at our haunt actually. Um, he was a profound part of my life, and when he did that show at one point in time, I got asked to be on it, and I got to wear this little. I had this thing until a couple years ago. I had this thing for
Mhm.
decades. It was the Dr. Creep Squad lab jacket to help him do an experiment. It was this really silly thing,
Uh-huh.
but Barry to do something nice for like people in the different neighborhoods and stuff would sometimes be Santa. The first time I saw him as Santa was the company my dad used to work for. Actually brought in Barry to be Santa for all the kids, the families and kids. None of the other kids there, but me, my brother, and my sister, knew it was Barry and knew him as Dr. Creep. So the whole time we're just going, all right, okay. We go up there. I remember I sat on his lap and I looked at him and I said, "You're Dr. Creep. It's you." I was allowed to call him Barry, but you didn't call, adults by their first name because, if your
Yeah.
parents caught you doing it, it was a problem. So just like, why are you here with Santa? He's like, oh, shit. Like I heard him say like shit because he realized that he knew what kid I was and I knew who he
Uh-huh.
was, and then he tried so what it is a lot of us just love Santa so much and he's so busy this time of year that a bunch of us just get together. He sends us, the whole outfit in the mail from the North Pole. We put it on. We record all this information for him. It's kind of like we're spies, but what we're really doing is making sure he gets to hear from all of you. So we're just helping him out. And I said, no, you're Dr. Creep. That was just my response. It was just, nope, you're Dr. Creep. And he's like, but no, there's a lot of us, man. Like, have you seen the one at the mall or the one? I was like, nope. Now I know that they're not Santa either. And now none of the Santas I see are Santa. So therefore, Santa cannot exist because I was a really logical minded at that. And he just kind of stopped and he said, we'll talk later. We did. We ended up talking a couple months after that. And he looked at me and said, all right, you figured it out. Don't tell your sister, your brother. It took them a little longer, another year of him being Santa, another time for them to really, really get it. But and he's like, also don't tell any of the other kids. Keep the magic alive. And that was how I found out that it was still magic, even though because I now had a secret with an adult. And when you're a kid, if you have a secret with an adult that's like something like that, it's so positive, it's so cool, you feel special, and it's like it was this weird way with a horror host experience, just making Christmas more special to me. And my family celebrated a lot of different religious holidays, different parts of my family. Christmas was the one that my where I live tended to do, but like it was just weird because now everything was just I kept expecting everything to be related to horror at that point in time. I think in my life,
I had a lot of things related to horror, but I was glad there was things that weren't.
yeah, me too.
But I still love the part that clowns could have been a part all of the holidays.
Yeah,
I was a big
they're
clown
nice.
kid, and then in 2016 they just made that. I couldn't keep that up with the kids anymore because of the 2016 clown epidemic. The fact
That
that
was tough.
they
It was really bad
ruined
here.
it for us. It made me so mad.
Did you guys see a lot of it there?
They had clown patrol. They had teachers that had to go outside and had to call the cops a couple of times
Yep.
because of jerks like that.
We had a lot of it bad, and that was one of the years where I had taken off from haunting, but I was going to other haunts, and I was still, consulting on some things here and there, and I was still helping people with haunts. I just was actively haunting myself. I do that every now and then just to kind of see what everyone else is doing, because when I'm working in a haunt, I don't really get to go to other haunts because
You're
I'm
busy
online all the time.
every single day.
So I got to do that from time to time, and that was the year that I was, I wasn't doing it, and me and Michelle were together. Everywhere we drove, 1 to 3 clowns everywhere. We drive out like country roads. You would see one just walking down the road. But the problem was the haunts were getting invaded by people who did not work there dressed as clowns, and there were several very dangerous situations where there were almost a couple deaths, and there was a shooting, and someone did get very hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And from then on out, all the haunts in the area, they still have their clown actors, but they increased their security. Like, it was literally a lot of the parents of the kids that were working there or friends of the adults that worked there, and everybody would just patrol. and some of the haunts a little bit farther out patrolled with guns. Like they went the perimeter, they walked the perimeter with shotguns. Like, and if I was actually at a haunt where these three guys came creeping up in clown outfits, and the guy pulled the shotgun and fired into the air, and we were sitting like maybe 50 feet away, like around this little fire, waiting for our turn to go through the haunt or whatever. And that's what happened. And I'm just like, fuck. And then there were some creepy incidents on people's porches. There was a little girl that was almost lured out into the woods. No one still understands what the fuck was going on with that situation. But thankfully, it didn't actually. Someone caught it and it didn't happen, and everything was fine. Nothing bad actually happened. But that epidemic was weird.
That it was caught. But I'm glad beyond police having to be more on patrol that nothing bad happened in our area. It just
I think in most places nothing like I mean you hear some stories, but like now a giant part of this is urban legend. So now suddenly everyone has stories. Oh, when that happened, there was this clown that took this kid away, like actually took the kid away and all this shit. And you have to look up and be like, not possible, because if that would have actually happened that frequently in every fucking town everyone claims it happened in, it's like Woodstock. And everybody went to Woodstock in the world, but there's only so many people there.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you had an urban legend. I just figured this is a thing that happened at my kid's school. This is a thing that angered me that happened at my kid's school. So it's one of those.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, I'm saying that other people took it too far. Other people started the rumors about this and that. Like, when in reality, I don't think a lot of it was dangerous or meant to really upset anyone. A lot of the clowns that I actually knew that did it didn't really do. I mean, they were haunt clowns, so they knew some people were going to be afraid of clowns. They knew that, but it was more done as like almost a show of like togetherness. You see a clown somewhere, hey, I'm a clown too. It was like a movement basically. But the way it was done, unfortunately, by big groups of people, kind of made it into more negative thing.
Whereas we still have this one place that is completely still all clowns. But it's this place where you can go and you can get a clown to help you with your homework. You can have fun. It is church run, but the clowns are helping people. They didn't take that togetherness away out of that particular community's favorite thing, and that I'm grateful. Way to
make it positive. That's super cool that they did that, man. That's really cool.
Oh yeah, because they tried to take it back, and I'm so happy about that.
That is amazing that they were able to do that, honestly. And I wish more communities would have spun that more positively. But I just think, like, as normal, you get any group of people together doing any one thing, and there's going to be a couple people that do something so terrible that it kind of dampens the whole thing. And unfortunately, there was a couple clowns in some other states and some places that did do a couple really bad things. But we're talking a couple versus tens of thousands.
Yeah.
But but just those couple people made it seem like it was such a bad thing.
And I think that's like one of the things I hate most about like large groups of people. There's always going to be that one person or that whatever that's going to add a thing over it that because they did something that was bad or took it too far.
Mm-hmm. I remember this old saying. I once asked my grandma, again, some of my grandma's wisdom, Ruby, or Granny as I call her. She would, very superstitious on my mom's side of the family, on Granny's side, like a lot of superstitions. And if there was 13 people in a room, she would make one person leave.
Yeah.
But a lot of my family was like that. If you realized that you were the 13th person, you didn't wait for someone to tell you. You just got up and left the room and went to a different room, or you went outside and hung out for a bit until someone else came out. Then you'd go in. Like this was just an unspoken thing. And one time I asked her, I was like, "Why 13?" And she's like, "Let me tell you this. The main tradition is that 13 is bad luck. So people don't want to do bad luck." She's like, "But what I was always taught, is that if 13 people are ever gathered at one time, one of them is either going to have something disastrous happen to them, or they're going to do something just so terrible it's going to ruin everything for everybody. And then it becomes not just about luck, more as of one of the people that you're with is not a good person or is going to do something bad." And that was kind of like the version of it that got instilled into her by her mother and her mother's mother. Like that was their version of why 13 people in a room was bad, because something bad would happen if 13 people gathered.
The weird thing is this Number Block show. I know I keep bringing it up, but I watch all the time.
Cool shit. Day.
But the episode about 13 and what it can be divided as and whatever, it's a show about bad luck. every time this number block grouping says its name, something bad would happen and it would get split apart for one reason or another and have to go back together.
Yeah.
But there was a song about him finally having to realize if he says his name, something bad is going to happen. But that's like the weird way my kid is learning about 13 being bad luck.
Yeah. But and that's like one of the traditions. Like the other day we were at the haunt and there was a ladder and I walked right underneath it and kept going. I'm not really superstitious about a lot of things. It's a haunt. It's hard to walk during build season without there being 50 ladders that you cannot avoid.
Mhm.
And they're like, "Oh, that's bad luck." And I'm like, "How do you know that?" Because a lot of the younger generations don't know about a lot of it. Because black cats are cool. They're not bad luck. 13's a cool number and it's good luck now. And like, but then you've still gotten the things like that are still teaching the old superstitions. And it's interesting to me to see that there are some companies out there that they're still keeping with those. It's interesting.
Oddly enough, my black cat is good luck.
Mine too.
Mine has
been.
brought good things to our family. So that is like one of the old superstitions I found we don't go by.
You know, I've stepped on so many cracks in my life, and not one time did my mother's back ever get broken.
Exactly.
Other
things happened, but
oh yeah,
I'm not going through that list. I just know asthma was my least favorite part of all of it.
Yeah.
Mainly because I got it.
It's crazy how that works, man. No shit, yeah. We've been doing this for about almost 2.5 hours. We should probably start bringing this to an end. It was a good conversation. Oh, yeah. I didn't want to end it, man.
Oh yeah, I've enjoyed talking with you and everything.
This is the first time it's just been you and I, like ever so far.
Yeah, normally it's just like text chatting or me asking 15 questions in a row about something you've asked I'm supposed to be doing on something.
It's a lot of fun, man. Like, and that's another thing I love so much about Padded Cells because, yeah, we talk about mental health, you know, in moments, but we talk about a lot of things that gets us excited, whether it's 4, 5, 6, 7 of us or just 2 of us. Like, you know, we get a chance to just bullshit and like, yeah, we're running a network. We have all these shows, but this is our chance to be like, fuck all that. We're not doing that today.
And my favorite part about all of it, whether it's on one of the other shows or if it's Padded Cell, we can all have dislikes that not everybody likes, but we're not bad. There's not something wrong with us because we know something different or we like something different. We can give constructive criticisms or, I'm just going to agree to disagree and then we move on.
Yeah, because I don't know, like some of us have been talking together for a long time. We've been, James and Dell have been friends for a long time. I've been friends with Dell for, a while. I was friends with you separately. Like a lot of us had these little groupings of friendships and we all came together and realized that. I mean, even Matt, as young as he is, Matt's going to be 20 this year.
The first time I've had a real conversation with James was like Friday. And that's the first time I've had a actual just me and him conversation.
Yeah. And it's cool that like we have this group that can do that. If one of us can't make it, all of us just feel really comfortable. Just, okay, well, then we're doing it today. And we just go and do it. And I feel like no matter what pairing I've been with, even with some other, like Jeremy, anybody that's come on, it's like everyone that we've got a chance to talk to and do anything with in that, like what, almost 2 months now we've been in network. I kept thinking it was a month for like the last 3 weeks in a row. I'm like, we've been a month. And it's like almost 2 now. And I'm like,
I lost track. I've been trying to figure out how to get everything rolling everywhere because still trying to find a new groove with Dad and a groove with everything else.
Yeah. But again, that's another really great thing about all of us. If one of us needs to get off track a little bit and figure something out, there's more of us that can step in and be like, hey, I got you. Go do that. I can handle this now. I mean, today, James has got something going on. Matt's got something going on. Jeremy and Dell are out at the convention. So, here we are. Because right now, we have the time to do this, to sit down and talk and have a good time. And we can carry that torch for them. And then they do that for us. And it's really cool to just know that. Like, I don't have to come up with some weird excuse. I don't have to bullshit anybody. I can just say, hey, I can't do it today. And then and then we've got more of us that can.
And I'm like, I cannot do it the way Dell does because I don't have access to those fonts, but I can still make it in general. So I made it, and he was like, hey, that looks great.
Yeah, it did look great, by the way. But you're Jenny. You're not Dell. You're not Raz. You're Jenny.
Yeah,
And the
I
way
just
you
don't
do
know how
things
to
is
buy
unique
the
to you.
fonts, so.
Oh yeah, and by the way, it's because I haven't given them to you because I'm dumb and I keep forgetting, but I do have those for you.
Okay, you do have those? Okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
we
that's
own them.
why
I
the
just
fonts are on like nothing because they did not come with anything I have.
I was supposed to upload
So,
them to the Google Drive, and I thought I had, but there's a really good chance that I just, with everything going on, that I spaced it. But I'll do that. I'll get that done the next day or so.
okay. I'm not rushing. The next two posters for unprinted pages will not have, it'll be two different fonts because I just don't have that.
Yeah.
But there will be posters. And because
Okay.
luckily Dell had given me this gorgeous, amazing background thing. So I'm using that for everything now.
Oh yeah. I guess like I've done. Obviously, I did a lot of radio. Then switched over to podcasting. I did Raz and Dark with just Jason, who's my roommate
Mhm.
now. And then we did Twisted Geekdom with more of our friends, and that was such a learning curve because there were so many things we did wrong, but we always had a good time, and like we had this group, and that went away. Like I tried another couple times, things just didn't work out, and then we got with the prior network, and I enjoyed my time there a lot. I enjoyed the friendships I had,
Mhm.
but you get to that point also where you realize that you can't work for other people all your life, and that was one of my big things was I was realizing that no matter what ideas I had, no matter what I wanted to do, it was okay to ask permission because I was working for someone else. And that's normal to be at, to say, hey, make sure you get permission for this. That's normal. But what I wanted was that freedom to really be able to do kind of what we're doing now from all the things that I've learned where
Yeah.
we just have this group. We have each other's backs. We enjoy conversation. We're all so different. We're also neurodivergent, every one of us. So, and
Yeah.
that's an experience that I hadn't quite had with other groups before where I don't have to explain myself. I literally, none of you asked me to explain myself. I'm just Raz, and I show up, and we talk, and we figure things out. You're Jenny, Dell's Dell, James is James, Matt's Matt, Jeremy's Jeremy, and that's just what
you're
we are.
willing to explain if I don't understand, but I don't want you to explain you. I'm like, I don't understand the situation.
And that's the difference.
Tell me how to do it so I can do it then.
People that either aren't neurodivergent or aren't really open about it or just really pretend like they get it and don't, it's hard because you find yourself feeling like you're always combative. You don't want to be combative, but people will misunderstand you so badly that it hurts. And then you've got to find a way to climb out of it and explain yourself to them when you go into the next group and everybody just gets it. And this is one of those groups one of the only groups I've ever been with outside of Ahan that just everybody just gets it for everybody equally.
ADHD, bipolar, schizophrenia. Yeah, I got all of that in my family. Yeah. We're good. We got all this.
Yeah, I think between like our whole group of people, I think we have just about everything covered.
Yeah, sure with my whole family, I have everything covered. So yeah.
It's just a really cool place to be able to do that, to let off the steam like with Pat had said, to talk about like the reality of all this stuff and how we feel about it, what we do to handle it. Like, I don't know, I think there should be more things out there like that. And I think just focusing only on that with Buddy Check was a little bit of a downfall for me and Dell because we just talked about all the stuff that we were dealing with, but we never spent a lot of time just building the friendships like with people and really like talking about how we could handle those feelings. You and I were talking about how we were handling feelings about our hometowns changing. Like that's only a random thing to talk about, but I bet you if 100 people listen to this later, at least 10 are going to be like, yeah, my hometown's different too, and it bugs the shit out of me. But you never know what's going to hit you until
and if one of my cousins listen, they're going to be like, I know exactly how that feels because I'm still here.
Yeah.
So.
But you never know. Like that's the cool thing about scrolling out. We talked about movies and stuff like we always do in different things, but we just get that really cool chance to just take it further and just to kind of see where it goes. Things that we can't always do during normal shows because then they would be all squirrels.
I truly enjoy talking with you, whether it's you and everyone, because there's always something that we can find that we can connect on.
Yeah, we're all very different, but we're also very much the same in a lot of things too, and it's weird how that works. And I think more people in the world could be like that if they just let themselves be. It's that programming in childhood we were talking about where like everybody has to be a certain way, everybody has to believe a certain thing or not believe a certain thing. And I think mostly it's the neurodivergent people that get that things are never going to be how you want them to be and they're never going to be how they appear to be. They just are. and you deal with that. You suck it up the best you can. You figure out how to live your life in spite of those things, and you just realize, you're going to make mistakes. The world's going to make mistakes, and you have to find new ways to deal with that are unique to you. And that's fucking cool. That's one of the things about humanity that I like.
Oh yeah.
We can be as broken as fucking you can imagine, but we will find a way. I dropped all my damn cigarettes there for a second. But yeah, so guys, thank you so much for everyone that popped in today. We really appreciate you guys for joining us live. We really appreciate you guys if you're listening to us at home too. You want to do some shout outs for the people that popped into chat today?
Josh, my amazing husband's Chaos Gamer Alucard. When we asked for, hey, we need another Timmy, we got a Timmy to show up, Ray Timmerman. His nickname's Timmy. So yeah, it's like, Timmy, I'm here. So yeah, thanks Ray for coming, and for everybody that showed up or will show up later that hasn't chat, please come chat on the. Please come to Facebook or Instagram or wherever, and please chat with us.
And don't forget, we got an awesome Discord too, where you can come and chat with us live and hang out and make suggestions for our shows. You want us to talk about something that you like that other people haven't heard of, or specific to any of our other shows. We always love to hear from you, and we'd love to do a show designed for you. So let us know.
Please forgive Jenny for forgetting Discord exists, but other people do remember, and they're there. I promise.
Things that I sometimes forget exist all the time. So you're the real champ here on that one.
Thank you.
But yeah, thank you guys so much. And again, James, thank you for popping on when you could, man. I know you're watching a 6-year-old right now. And thank you, Carissa, for joining us again for a little bit of fun. Hopefully we can tempt you back here again in the future very soon. I think she's got another campaign coming up. I think she said in like 3 weeks. So I'm sure we'll get her back frequently for that. But yeah, and Jeremy and Dell, we miss you. We miss you very much, and we hope you're having a good time at the con. And Matt, what the fuck, man? You're upstairs. But yeah, thank you guys as always. Just thank everybody, man. Like, almost 2 months. I just keep looking at it like, man, we've accomplished, like, there's so many videos on YouTube. There's so much, like, positive engagement that I hoped we could get to the point we were in 6 months. I'm not even at 2 months, man. And thanks to everybody over the Dorkening that puts up with Dell. I'm joking, but seriously, thanks to everybody at the Dorkening, because we've gotten a lot of good advice from them. All their shows are just so fucking cool, man, and they're really good people over there.
And thank you to my nephew Jasper for forcing your friends to listen to us over chat and all our stories. I love you.
Yeah. What kind of shows do you want to listen to, Jasper? Let us know. Yeah,
tell us about. Hey, come tell us about your scary stories. I know you have a few.
Yeah, we have a campfire that's coming up relatively soon, and we're always looking for people of all walks of life to join us on that. And that's another cool thing about joining the Discord, people. If you start joining it, you got some stories. At some point, we're probably going to want to pull you on and talk about it. That's more incentive for you to have a good time. Yeah, again, just thank everybody for being here and for listening an hour later. Thank you, Jenny, for putting up with me for the last hour and a half. I had a great time with you today. That was fucking awesome.
I've enjoyed you.
I think that was my mental therapy for the day. Just, I love the whole first half of the show, but then we had this one-on-one, and it was really nice to just share more stories in time, and that was really cool. Thank you for that.
That was great, and I appreciate it.
Hell yeah.
And I get to be friend and super fan all at the same time.
Family. We call it family.
Yes. But
yeah, thank you guys. I'm going to go fuck off now, and I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do something important, I'm sure.
Okay. Bye, everyone.